Do not adjust your radio dial. You are tuned in to the Mark Order Podcast. Join the Mark Order.
Guys, happy high holy day. It's MJF Day here on the Mark Order Podcast. I know I'm celebrating. I hope you guys are.
I got my ADHD hoodie on. Of course I am.
Good. It's fitting.
I celebrate in silence.
I know. You take time and reflect, solemn reflection. So
I internalize it.
Yeah. No, you're good, Ryan. I know. It is the Mark Order Podcast here, part of the Shining Wizards radio network. AntMoney back with you tonight, here with Kate the Great and Ryan Schlong, all celebrating the holiday that is MJF Day. It's not just a Long Island thing; it's a worldwide thing. We should all recognize it and celebrate it, because he truly is better than us, and we do know that. We know that here, right?
Yeah, it is. It is not just a Long Island thing. It is for poors all around the world.
That's right. For all the poors in every
even
country.
AntMoney, who by definition is money, is a poor today.
I'm a poor. Yeah. I know my place in the pecking order. That's the truth. So I'm good with it. Hope you guys are doing good. Thanks for holding it down last week.
You're welcome.
It's what I do.
Yeah, I know, Ryan. I know. It's you. I know. I wasn't gonna say.
Listen,
I wasn't gonna say it with Kate here.
Yeah, I know. Oh, look, she's doing a glare.
Excuse me.
Oh, are we all doing this?
Sassy with our glasses.
All of us.
Remember when Ryan didn't see out of his left eye for like years because
it's a miracle to actually be able to see.
Wait, is that a thing?
My glasses prescription was so off, I could not see it out of my left eye when they tested it.
Holy shit! Really?
Yeah. Apparently, I was just using my right to see everything.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was bad. The doctor came and she's like, I have no idea what happened to your left eye. I couldn't read the first line on the test they give you.
That's not good, Ryan. That's really bad.
No, you drive like often, like regularly.
I know.
That's why he's such a bad driver.
My headaches have gone down.
Well, yeah. I mean, that will help the headaches for sure.
I'll have one poor little eyeball working overtime.
Yeah, it's really strong now.
Ryan, congratulations on the first Phillies win.
Thank God they got one. Jesus Christ.
And Kate, congratulations on winning that series.
Thank you. I worked really hard at it.
We did. We worked very hard.
We really did.
Series.
Which one of your guys got hurt today?
I don't know. Who knows? It's fucking March, April. God, I'm losing track. It's April.
I thought one of your guys got hurt. That's all I was asking.
I don't know.
Is there anybody left to get hurt? Did somebody get hurt today?
Honestly, it was 1:00 and I didn't see the game.
I didn't see the game today either, actually.
It's hard.
No, that was yesterday's game, right? Or tonight? I don't know.
No.
I don't know what's happening.
I don't know either. Schlong, Joe Walsh says it's E at the top of the eye chart. You can always at least get that.
I did not get that. I was honest when I said it was a blur and I could not make out what that letter was.
Joe Walsh also says it's Donaldson that got hurt today.
Oh, that's just doing us a favor.
That's addition by subtraction.
That's fine.
Yeah, it's addition by subtraction. It's totally fine. As long as it wasn't another starting pitcher, we're good.
Legit.
So guys, thanks for holding it down last week. I wound up having some shit at work that boiled over into Wednesday, and then got sick. So it's been an interesting week.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry you got sick. I'm glad
Okay.
you're on the up and up. I'm glad we got to see
Sorry,
each
my
other
internet
at
was being
baseball
weird.
at least.
Yes. Yeah. I felt fine at baseball. And then but I got sick like Friday. So Friday I was like feeling really shitty. And I sounded like shit. Actually, I wasn't feeling shitty as much as I was like just coughing uncontrollably. But I felt fine. You know what I mean? Like it's been one of those weird things where like I feel fine, but I can't stop coughing and I can't stop, with the runny nose. So
It's the weather. I swear to God. It's like supposed to be 77 tomorrow. It was like 30 last week.
yeah, we're in
And
for
so
one
bad.
more, fuck you from the weather. That's all.
Oh,
All I know is
definitely.
I'm shocked I was able to watch Mania because there was tornado warnings on Saturday night, so that was fun.
Yeah. Yeah, there were.
I
And shit got fucked up down by you too.
Ooh,
yeah, it did.
I've never heard wind that bad.
It was
I didn't-
crazy. I have coworkers that are like on the suburbs of Philly, and like their next door neighbors don't have houses anymore or whatever. Like crazy tornado nonsense.
Yeah, I was gonna say I didn't get any. There was nothing tornado wise up here by me.
Not even a DDT?
No.
No tornado DDTs?
No, not even a Texas tornado.
Gotcha.
So it's been pretty quiet. But I am keeping an eye. I'm always keeping an eye out. And standing back in case there's a hurricane that comes through. But we're pretty far inland, so Ryan got it. Kate's just Kate's a no-selling son of a bitch tonight. She's like,
I didn't get
fuck
it.
you.
You weren't hurricane wasn't your error. Hurricane Helms.
Oh,
Stand back. There's a
Jesus
hurricane.
Christ. Jesus Christ.
There's a really big gap between my brain and my spinal cord today. It's like worse than usual. I'm not. Right.
I saw
Kissing Santa Claus.
Nope. I saw two things for WrestleMania. And that happened to be by chance. We got home late. We had to go out on Sunday. And it was down by the shore. And we got back around 9:30 and we were flipping around. And then we went, into the apps to see what was on. And I was like, oh, like I saw the thing on my TV, like watch WrestleMania. I was like, oh, I swear to God, I forgot it was fucking WrestleMania. And I was like, it's 9:30. I was like, if this show's supposed to end at 10 o'clock, they're probably at the main event. And I turned it on and it was not the main event. It was Finn Balor. And for those who don't know, Mrs. Money still has a hard-on for Finn Balor. That's like the original.
Does she have a hard-on that's also an eggplant?
She's
packing?
She is an original card-carrying member of the Eggplant Club. She's like all in on that. No pun intended. We're going to talk about that, by the way. But yeah, so we watched that, and then I saw the main event. And I really was just like, I just want to see what the entrance is like. So I saw the entrance, and then I just left it on. And of course, it went the way I thought it was going to go. So
Night 1 was good. Night 2 was mostly bad. And then the Raw after Mania. At that point, we knew that Vince sold the company, and he was after a talent meeting where they swore nothing would change. It
all changed.
He went out during Seth Rollins' segment to change it while it was happening.
Amazing. Just amazing.
I highly enjoyed Night 1 of WrestleMania.
Night 1 was great. Night 1 was great.
I mostly enjoyed Night 2.
It was medium.
They made a bad call at the end. Raw after Mania was trash. And I even would just want to bring this up, and I know spoiler for what happens on Dynamite tonight, so I won't even say it.
Don't, because I want to talk about it later.
We will, but I just
want
to
keep people glued to their channels.
I'll come relative to this. There's something to be said about giving your fans what they want and making them happy. Just gonna say it.
Also something to be said for having your contracts with talent I's dotted, T's crossed if you plan on bringing them in.
There's also
They've screwed that up a number of times.
There's also something about them putting a belt on a guy who like was with you, then turned away from you, made himself into something huge, and then getting himself back in the picture, and then you basically being like, fuck you, it ain't happening.
Oh, and it got so much worse on Monday.
I saw what happened on Monday. I read along, and I want to talk about that because actually I read along for the full rundown on Monday, but I actually saw the start of Raw on Monday, and I want to talk about that when we get to what happened tonight, because that's sort of when I realized everything that was going to happen. But I'll say this for the WrestleMania shit and the Raw after Mania. Everybody, sorry, I'm waving around my mail opener. I should be waving around this. That's right.
I don't know why you have that.
Because I saw it somewhere and I was like, I need that. Anyway, I forgot what I was saying. For everybody who's continually saying it's gonna change, they're gonna do this, they're getting better, blah blah blah. It's never gonna fucking change. It's never going to change. And I know that because I also saw in the post conference to WrestleMania, which really funny that they're doing post pay-per-view press conferences now. But I saw a quote from Triple H when he was asked about the result of that main event. And they said, was there any consideration for, spoiler alert to anybody who didn't know, Cody didn't win, right? He was asked about the thought about giving the fans what they wanted or something like that. And he was like, well, we weren't sure, what was going to happen, but we have like something to the effect of like, there's another story that we're trying to tell. And when
this is an ongoing story, and now we're on to the next chapter, is what he said.
Essentially what he said, and I saw it as a quote, was the story's never fully over. And I was like, that is fucking dumb. You have to end stories sometimes, or you have to break on them. It just makes no sense.
There are a couple of things in play here. One, they sold the company the same night, right? Or announced it. So it's very possible that the sale affected the booking and that maybe they were like, we don't want things to change. Two, WWE loves their stupid milestones, so they probably want to get Roman to 1,000 days. But three, it's actually a better story to have Cody lose and then actually have to do something to win it. Because the build was not, from where I was sitting, was good, but not great. Like compared to what they had going on with Sami Zayn, was nowhere near it. So like
once you sacrifice the Sammy story,
you
kind of have to deliver on Cody.
Well, the best thing I saw about it was what's his name? Alan something on Twitter. And he said he can't put the toothpaste back in the tube, and it's exactly that. It's exactly that. And now with Vince back in charge, I think it won't. I just don't think it'll be Cody. I think there was definitely the story of I'll put it how my co-host said it. There at no point was it that Cody needed to beat Roman for the title. It just mattered that Cody won the title because of his dad. There's a lot of value in the story of Cody wins the title at Madison Square Garden, and now you've given him a reason to need to beat Roman for it. However, that's not what they're going to do now. So, no. So I don't think Cody's the dude. I feel like Monday they might as well have sent him out there in polka dots because it just didn't. Or stars.
They've embarrassed him. They've buried him.
He's definitely not buried. He's definitely the most over baby face on the roster, but it doesn't matter because they don't do anything with baby faces. They don't know how. Every in the past decade, babyface run that they've had has been by accident.
all I know is this. They keep thinking they're going to get The Rock. It's not going to be anybody until it's The Rock. It's not.
I don't think that's it.
That's what they want. They want The Rock. And
now they want the 1,000 days. That's what they want.
Yeah.
So you have the time now. So now you've given him time.
But you can't wait till we're gonna have Rock SummerSlam. Rock's not gonna be at SummerSlam.
If Rock wanted to do it, he would have done it this year. I don't think The Rock wants to do it.
It's not going to be Cody because first of all, they sacrificed the Sammy story, like Ryan said. That was the biggest story, and then they scrapped that for Cody, and now you've essentially scrapped the Cody story because of what happened on Monday, from what I read, with Brock Lesnar. So now he's got an issue with Brock Lesnar.
Well,
it's gonna be Cody at some point. I do believe that. It's just not gonna be what they could have had at Mania. They've blown the chance.
It's all fucking stupid, is all I know. It's
you also don't watch WWE, so there's a compelling story that they could tell with Cody. I just don't think they're going to tell it now that Vince is clearly back in charge. I think if Triple H was legitimately in charge, there's a strong possibility, but I don't think so now. But it's also, a lot of people have said, and I agree, how you treat Cody is kind of a referendum on talent from AEW that might sign there, right? So it probably would have made sense to have treated him well, because now there's people in WWE who aren't going to be happy. Never mind people coming over from AEW. They got bigger problems.
I just don't agree that there's a better story to tell. That's the place to give it to him. That's the biggest stage. And if you're not going to give it to him there, give it to him on the Monday following. Because what are you going to do? Give it to him at SummerSlam? Who gives a shit about SummerSlam? It's not the biggest stage.
A lot of people do.
It's not the same thing. It's not.
I know
WrestleMania
that.
has the most eyes on it.
There's a difference, though.
It's a
way better story. It's a way less impactful moment, and they are a moments company. But it's a fundamentally better story than this guy who entered at Royal Rumble in the 30 spot talking about his dad for 2.5 months.
But they never set that story up, which is the problem.
But the other thing too is that the way it ended, the finish to that match is apparently the same way he's kept his title for the past 2 or 3 years. So nothing is going to change. It's going to be the same fucking thing. It's just it's so
definitely not if Vince is back. There's been some very, very, very drastic improvements as Triple H has taken over.
It was very enjoyable for his entire thing.
I don't disagree with that. From what I've seen and read, it seems like they had things going in the right direction. That's fucking over. That's clearly
Vince
done.
Wants to stay, it's 100% over because he just doesn't.
I saw somewhere. Now I didn't see anything else anywhere, but some place was saying that he actually signed a 2-year contract before
he hired himself. 2 days beforehand.
Yeah, so he was definitely going to be there, and now they're definitely keeping him there because I saw quotes from the Endeavor people saying that they didn't want to work with a WWE where Vince McMahon was not part of the team,
and nobody else that they wanted to sell to outside of Saudi Arabia would work with Vince. A huge reason that they sold to Endeavor was so that Vince could stay in power. 100%. There's very little doubt about that.
It also makes me chuckle now that they sold to Endeavor. That for the longest time, how long were people saying like UFC and sort of comparing them to the WWE? And for the longest time, they were like, we are not, it's totally different. It's legitimate. We don't play into all that WWE horseshit. And now they're the same company.
Oh yeah. There's going to be a ridiculous amount of
crossover. UFC should embrace a lot of aspects of professional wrestling that they do not.
They should just embrace.
Already embraces a lot of aspects of professional wrestling.
But like if you watch like
to admit.
But if you watch like I think it's Pride over in Japan, I think that's who it is, where they have like the big entrance with the ramp and all this pageantry. UFC doesn't do any of that. Like, why wouldn't you?
I don't know. I kind of like actually the way like people coming out with the flag and just going into the octagon and stuff. I think is cool, but I don't know. I don't know. I feel really bad for the talent. That's pretty much the end game. The biggest tell is going to be Friday. If Vince just ruined Raw because he was in town at the same time, that's one thing. If he's planning to stick around, that's going to be the indicator. And I feel awful for any of the talent that's there. I feel terrible for any of the talent, especially the talent that re-signed in the interim between Triple H and Vince. It's really bad.
Was there any
talent I don't feel bad for?
Go ahead.
The ROH talent, because they had a hell of a good time.
They did.
Oh,
Nice segue, but
they
Ant
were
was going to
great.
ask a question.
I didn't think he was.
Was there any truth? I saw something on a rumor or like, site, not a site, but like, one of the rags has like rumor sections, right? And I didn't go looking for follow-up, probably because I was reading it before I started work and then just forgot about it. But there was something, I saw a blurb somewhere that a fan had seen Bray Wyatt in LA over the weekend, and I guess had taken some sort of thing on social where he said to him, like, why weren't you at Mania? And he said something like, my WrestleMania is Monday night.
No. He's fighting an illness.
Just
that's a rumor.
Yeah, I was gonna say if they kept him off of anything Monday or anything like that, and he was available, they're fucking dumb.
No. They spent too much money on him. They just wouldn't have. From the perspective, it's too much. He's not available right now. He's not cleared.
Triple H spent a lot of money on him. He could very well be back out the door.
We'll see. We will see.
I'm more interested in seeing the like merger details. Like, I don't care about who's doing what, but I actually am interested in seeing the full details when everything gets hashed out of the merger and how it's going to affect the company, because I'd imagine they're going to cut a lot of positions from the WWE.
That's what sucks. And it's not going to be on maybe on the talent side, but more realistically, it's going to be office people, and that's what sucks.
And what's wild is they haven't even gone into the new office that they built in Connecticut. And I've been by it a couple times, like driving through Connecticut, like when we, go to Massachusetts for a show or something like that. That I think it's part of like two buildings. Like their logo is on the side of two buildings now in downtown Stamford. And they're big buildings. Now they're not the whole building, obviously, right? They're like part of the building, but it's definitely got to be more space than their old location. And if you just sold and you're cutting all those people out, what are you going to do with all that fucking space you spent money on?
I'm sure there'll still be a stronghold, because this has been in the works for too long for, like, I feel like they probably bought that at the same time that they were like negotiating this deal with the timeline tracks.
What, the office space? No,
wasn't that like right?
No,
when Vince
they've
was
been
leaving?
building that out for a long time.
Oh, okay.
That's been a couple years, I think, that they've been doing that.
I think that it was supposed to probably happen, and then the pandemic hit, and it sort of delayed everything. And then because they were working on those buildings, because for a while those logos have been on the building, but they haven't been in there. And then I think I had seen something saying that, some of the office people were going to be moving post WrestleMania. Who the fuck knows now?
Yeah, buildings like that take a few years to build. So,
especially even if it's not your building and you can do the construction to your floors, to make it yours, like it takes a while, but I think it got affected because of the pandemic.
I'm sure.
It just sucks because they don't even need to make the cuts, because you're still it's a merger, so there's no real money going out the door. And those people who are working for WWE are at capacity, assumingly so, because WWE does not run to give people extra room to work. So how are the overlaps from the Endeavor people, who are probably working just as hard, going to be able to handle the new work? It's always...
Well, we're also predicting layoffs that might not happen. So they could afford to spend $9.6 billion on buying WWE. They probably won't.
Well, that's the thing, is they didn't spend a dime.
Operations.
It's a merger.
Oh, there you go.
Well, but even so, my guess is that a bunch of the spots that they would eliminate, or at least cut back on a lot, would be like things that you can have one team do for both companies, right? Like marketing or, advertising, things like that, where you can just sort of sell it. And
I guess
for
that's
both, you know what I mean?
We're getting more into my hatred of mergers and what I think always goes wrong in them, how they cut people.
I also already talked about WWE too much this week. Can we move on?
Yeah, so ROH.
That's not my problem. This is our show.
Yeah,
You know, nobody even. This isn't a WWE podcast. It's AEW one.
We were talking about Cody. He's
a
original.
WWE
Adrenaline
employee.
in his soul.
What'd you say, Ryan?
He's got adrenaline in his soul.
Is it general in his soul? My God.
Well, Cody might. I mean, did you see his outfit?
I mean, yeah, it's true.
Like the Eagles' wings. That was weird.
That was weird.
Back to my awesome segue of how awesome ROH was.
Well, I can tell you this much, Ryan. Ring of Honor was awesome. So awesome that nobody watched Rampage.
Not one of us.
We didn't watch Rampage because I think we were all watching the pay-per-view. But in case you need to know what happened on Rampage, we're just reading the results, and then we want to talk a little bit about the pay-per-view. So Sammy defeated Takeshita to sort of further his story into tonight. Darby Allin and Jungle Boy were watching that match closely. There was a new QTV where QT says the Marks love his new dirt sheet driver finisher because he got it from Japan, and then they mocked Wardlow. Fantastic. I actually saw that on social, so that's the only thing I think I saw from the show. I was like, ooh, QTV, I'll watch.
Hell yeah.
Matt Hardy and Ethan Page signed the contract to the match tonight, and Ethan Page signed it saying, I don't know about anything that's in it. So that obviously plays into tonight. We will definitely talk about that. Kings of the Black Throne defeated the Best Friends, setting up the match for tonight. Keith Lee and Swerve both cut promos to hype up their next fight whenever that happens. Taya Valkyrie defeated Marina Shafir. And then let me see. Anna Jay got interviewed, and Juice Robinson defeated Action Andretti before his big match tonight against Ricky Starks, and we will certainly be talking about that when we get to Dynamite after the break. But we do want to talk just a little bit about Ring of Honor. So for those who did watch Ring of Honor Friday and did tune into our post show, Ryan was covering it on some bonus for some bonus content. You can find that show. It was quite a night, All Elite Wrestling. We greatly enjoyed the show tonight, and we're going to talk about Dynamite in the next hour. We're also talking about Ring of Honor, Super Card of Honor, because we love that show. But for those who didn't see the pay-per-view, you should definitely go out of your way to watch it because they did a really great job and really good storytelling. I mean, Ryan, I was saying you had the bonus show, right? So people can go listen to our bonus episode on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. And Ryan, thank you for doing that. Again, like I said, I was not feeling good enough to talk.
It was fine, a little last minute, so that was kind of funny for me, and I was getting together. But I mean, I wanted to talk the show. It was so awesome. I mean, that was
Super Card of Sadness, though. Gosh.
Yeah, it set up a tone for the weekend that I wasn't expecting.
It did set up a tone.
A big tone.
Darn it.
Such a there was a definite tone.
Well,
let's
so happy though.
It did.
And so happy with Nigel.
So I was gonna say, let's do this. I'm gonna run through the pre-show, sort of what happened, and then feel free to touch on whatever we want to touch on in the pre-show.
It's called a 0 hour.
I'm sorry.
Please.
0
Show some
hour.
respect.
So Jeff Cobb defeated Tracy Williams with a tour of the islands. Ian Riccaboni and Caprice Coleman welcomed their third man to the booth for the night. That's where we got the big surprise. Nigel McGuinness was coming back. Well, at that time, we knew he was back for the night, but I can say this. In quite a big day where signings have been announced for AEW, they did announce that Nigel McGuinness is officially All Elite. So that's really awesome. We can talk about Nigel McGuinness after we get through the 0 hour stuff. Takeshita defeated Willie Mack via pinfall. Willow Nightingale defeated Miranda Alizé. And Stu Grayson defeated Slim J. And the big thing for me was that after that match, Dutch and Vincent of the Righteous appeared and strut their way out on the stage. Friend of the Shining Wizards, Vincent.
Yes, good friend. Dear friend.
Yes. It got us our seats to the final battle, finalist battle of all battles to be finally battled.
Which we
so
come
yeah.
to find out wasn't the final battle.
No,
No.
not even close.
But at the time,
it
was the finalist of final battles.
It was.
Hold on, real quick. I just want to say, because Eric Freed said happy Passover. Happy Passover to all our Jewish listeners and viewers.
Happy Passover.
Happy Passover. I thought we could
Anyone
save that for MJF segment tonight.
Yeah,
but
hello.
I mean, we're starting it. All right.
He just had his Reba Mitzvah.
He's been Rebar Mitzvah'd, and he's been given the key to Long Island.
We got a lot to talk about. Let's talk
So,
0 hour real fast.
So, I mean, obviously,
I was going to have no comment on 0 hour. It was awesome, but I have.
I was just going to say, the wrestling was great. For me, the big things, like I said, was Nigel McGuinness, and that's really fucking awesome because he was really great with the stuff that he did when he was with the E. And when he left, it was definitely like a void. And I was kind of like, how is nobody working with Nigel McGuinness? Especially when they brought Ring of Honor back. Go ahead, Ryan. I'm sorry.
So no, you're right. I'm gonna go a little bit into the match card, which whatever, who cares? But it speaks about Nigel McGuinness. He does something that I want him to stay as the third man because he fit in really well with the two of them.
He did,
because he provides something a little different. He's not, Riccaboni's play-by-play. Caprice is the excited guy. Nigel is kind of like that technical guy, and he explains mistakes so that they make sense. So when I think it was Commander wanted to do his 450 off of the stage and land on Vikingo, he landed on his feet.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of being, it looked a little weird. And McGuinness, without missing a beat, was like, oh, thank God you landed on his feet, because if you landed on your knees, you would really mess up your knees there. It's like,
yeah.
And he did it a couple times for a couple different spots that were clearly botches. Who I wouldn't have cared if they happened or not. I mean, it's wrestling, who cares? But he covers for them with such logic. Oh, the other one was I think it was Ray Phoenix or was it Dralistico? One of them, I think it might have been Dralistico, was
one
looking
of the
for
insane luchadors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He had an entire clear ring to get up the ladder and go grab the title. But he didn't, and it looked really weird for a second. He looked really awkward. And again, McGuinness, without missing a beat, goes, the reason he's not climbing that ladder is he knows the minute he starts, he's going to be knocked off. So he's looking to make sure take out whoever's standing. I'm like, holy, that's such good logic.
The other thing I enjoyed about Nigel McGuinness through the night was when Ian Riccaboni and Caprice would be like, at one point they were talking about like their wife and, like things going on at home. And Nigel was like, do you guys mind talking about what's actually happening here and not that other like he didn't say it, but he's basically like that other bullshit going on outside of the ring. At one point,
Caprice goes, he's a month away from my 20th anniversary. And he goes, less time for murder. When I tell you, I howled. And then Ian Riccaboni, is my beautiful wife Sarah's birthday today? Like immediately on the other side of it, which I think is why they did that later, was like, let's lean into this. But when he said, and just so less time for murder, it sounds like, or when I was howling.
Usually add him as the third. They work so well together.
Yeah.
He's a rare blend of like, he was doing the heel commentator thing without being like, oh, I'm such a heel commentator. It was just who he is, which I loved. I love Ian and Caprice so much. And he just like so comfortably slid into the third man role. Like I was so happy, because sometimes when you get those dynamics, you're like, no, don't fuck with the dynamic. But Nigel just made so much sense. He still is mad at Bryan Danielson for 25 years ago or whatever. I loved it. Also on the 0 hour, just nice to see some returning talent, and Hot Sauce and Miranda Alizé was a big part of that women's tournament before it shut down. Always love seeing Jeff Cobb. That's my favorite finisher in the whole wide world. Like that Tour of the Islands is just so nasty. But 0 hour is really good at being like an appetizer for the show. Like I feel like every time I watch a 0 hour, I'm like, damn, that was just a fun hour of wrestling. Like you could put that as a Rampage and I would have been happy or whatever. Like it gets you excited to watch ROH. But yeah, that was a whole mess of fun. But Nigel is the best.
and I will say this, like you said, Kate, I enjoy how Nigel sort of like works heel, quote unquote, right? Without being like so over the top about it. I will say this, overall, I feel like the heels who have done commentary for AEW are pretty good at that overall. Like Jericho says heelish stuff, but he also gives props, right? Like to faces when they deserve it. Also Daddy Magic, when he does commentary, like it's not all one-sided for the heels, you know what I mean? Like, so I feel like they do a pretty good job of that all around, but you're right. Like, Nigel is like top notch at that.
Yeah. It feels like it's just so authentically his point of view.
Yeah.
Like it just feels like
his natural personality, but he's not, you know, a shit heel, but it just feels natural to him.
Yeah, it was really fun. And Ian is such like I love him to death. He's such like a Boy Scout. You know what I mean? Like, he's so easy to fall in love with. And Caprice has so much personality and is so much fun. It was a really, really nice balance throughout the night. And it adds so much value to the matches, especially pure matches, which we'll talk about in a little bit, because holy shit.
Yeah. And also when Willow came out and they showed Caprice and Ian dancing, wasn't Nigel like, what is going on? What are you doing?
Because he had like just sat down not long before too.
Yeah.
So good.
Great. And then too, like I said, Dutch and Vincent coming back was a big surprise to me and one I love. And the surprise is because the heavy rumors were that they were going to the E to be part of, you know, Bray Wyatt's family thing, whatever's going on there. But obviously not happening.
Well, they were interesting because they showed up at WWE. I don't know if they had a tryout, but there's a couple of spooky acts that they might have been considered for. But they were also doing a bunch of the Honor No More stuff at Impact. So I'm happy about ROH because it was their home for so long. That's where I got to know them. So it feels like a really organic fit. But I'm excited. I'm excited to see the people from the era that we were watching also being pulled back in a little bit. It makes me happy.
For sure.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. The more, obviously not originals, but like ROH before shutdown guys, you can bring back guys and gals like Miranda Alizé. The more it feels like ROH and the better it is. So you have some of them already. Blake Christian was there. Hot Sauce has made a couple appearances for it, but I think the righteous and the fact that they Cheeseburger.
Yeah, he's been there a lot.
Cheeseburger. But the Righteous also were introduced in a way that makes you think they're going to be important, which I loved because they were clearly very important in ROH before it was bought. They were the 6-man tag champs. So I'm happy that they're not just coming back to be there. It looks like they're going to be important again, and I'm very excited for that.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see how they play that out, and the storyline setup of them, you know, sort of like facing off with the Dark Order is fucking awesome. So,
oh my god, that's right, Stu Grayson was on the 0 hour.
Yep, Stu Grayson, and then that was when they came out. Was after they won. Him and Uno were in the ring, so Dutch and Vincent came out, and I'm like, sign me up for this tag program. Like, that's gonna be awesome.
I'm so glad Stu is back.
I know, isn't it great? He's so it's just been so wonderful having him back. So
he's the best.
Jump into the pay-per-view. Again, we don't have to go through every single thing. Let's run down the sort of results and stuff, and then we can touch on what we need. Hijo del Vikingo defeated Commander to retain the AAA Mega Championship. The Embassy, Brian Cage, Khan, and Toa Leona defeated Metalik, Blake Christian, and AR Fox. Athena defeated Yuka Sakazaki to retain the Ring of Honor Women's World Championship, and they debuted the brand new women's belt, which looks fantastic. Samoa Joe defeated Mark Briscoe by referee stoppage to retain his title, which was a hell of a story, and we'll talk about that. I'm sure we'll touch on that. Hiroshi Tanahashi defeated Daniel Garcia. Lucha Brothers defeated Roosh and Dralistico, the Kingdom, Top Flight, and Aussie Open in the Reach for the Sky ladder match to win the World Tag Team championships. What was that, kid? I missed it. I'm sorry. I was looking down.
I'll show you what Man the meant.
Okay. Shibata defeated Wheeler Yuta via pinfall to become the new Ring of Honor Pure Champion. And then Claudio Castagnoli defeated Eddie Kingston via pinfall. Oh,
he looks sad there.
I'm the saddest little partner.
You don't have a gas can photo of him?
I know, but this was sent to me by Asian Joe.
Oh, very nice.
It's autographed, if you see that.
I can't just
because
Listen
because
up,
of the
partner.
pointed it out. Now you pointed it out, I see it.
I can't believe I didn't beat Claudio,
see.
partner.
Listen,
I can't either.
That was interesting. And then after the match, Yuta came out. Claudio cornered Eddie. And then Shibata came out to sort of, keep them at bay. So there's a little weird stare down going on, but sets up for an interesting story. So that was the card for the show. I would say this, just as a blanket statement all around, in case I'm pretty sure we all agree on it. The wrestling all night was, I thought, phenomenal.
Not one match let you down.
Not one let me down. The only sort of black eye on the main event is that Dante Martin suffered a gruesome injury during that ladder match. It was like I don't know, some sort of power bomb.
His ankle went the wrong way. His foot started pointing the wrong way.
They were going from basically the ladder that was resting on the top rope, inserted into the ladder, standing up in the middle of the ring, a flipped, basically power bomb onto a stack of tables. And when Dante Martin came around, his ankle landed underneath him. And then it should look like this, but it didn't look like that. It looked the other way. It looked the way other way. So Dante Martin is definitely going to be out for quite some time with that injury. So that sucks. But I thought the wrestling all night was phenomenal. So I think we're all in agreement there. So we don't even need to talk about the quality because the quality was there. I would
say too that like the diversity of what you get on ROH is so much fun. Like Eddie and Claudio beating the ever living shit out of each other is so different than Vikingo versus Commando versus so different than the ladder match. Like one thing I always love about ROH is how because the framework is so simple and clean and logical, when you fill it in with such different stylistic matchups like that, it makes it a really compelling product for me.
Yeah, it was I agree with that, Kate, because thinking of this card and thinking back to the other cards, every match is completely different. The pacing, the style, and I think that just speaks to the quality, I guess, of the product, but also that they've sort of set themselves up for that with some of the different stuff that they have in place, right? Like the Pure Championship is always going to be completely different type of match than everything else on the card. And I'll say this too about these Pure matches they've had so far in the new Ring of Honor. I think in the past, some of the stuff we've gone to live, Kate, like we've said, it's kind of boring. Like it wasn't bad, but it was just like, oh God, the pacing, blah. All of these Pure matches that they've had on these pay-per-views and in other places, I thought have been done really well. And the pacing and the way they've sort of played the stories out have really kept me involved.
Pure matches are one of the few types of matches that I'd rather watch at home because there's so many little nuances and commentary adds so much. And that's not even just Ian and Caprice being great at what they do. It just really helps when you actually have a commentator in your ear to chug along with those matches, because otherwise the Wheelers have been a little bit different, but a lot of times you are like, oh, sick, some rest holds or whatever. Like it really, really helps to have the rhythm of commentary during those matches, because they are not high energy. And a lot of times I feel like the Pure matches can almost get used as like the catch your breath match on a card. So when you're there live, you're also like a little bit fatigued from like, I just saw Roosh go 900 miles an hour flying into somebody or whatever. And now I'm watching a Pure match, like necessary on the card. But when you're there live, it just has a little bit of a different feel. The overarching story that Wheelers had has been so much fun. Like really, really loved that. But we can kind of circle back at that.
So the first thing I want to talk about, just looking down at the card, because I think Vikingo and Commander, I don't think we have to dig deep on that. That was a fucking A+ match. I think those guys maybe could have stolen the whole televised weekend in that match alone. I mean, it was phenomenal.
There were a couple spots that made me either A, nervous, or just like because they're both so shot out of a cannon with their offense, just like missed a little bit, but that was insane. Like that was just two of the best people to walk the ropes in all of wrestling doing what they do best.
I will say though, I can see those matches not being for everyone because there is a bit of like with their matches a lot more standing and waiting for a move to hit type deal. I said it on the review show I had to. I called it brain fave it. I had to make something make sense in my brain. So the way it works for me is that whenever they're waiting for their opponent to land something, it's because they think they can catch their opponent and reverse it. It's the only way it makes sense to me that the guy would be standing there waiting for like the dude to fly off the ropes at him, like more than any other match. But once you either you don't have to make something up in your brain and you can just enjoy it. And if you can just enjoy it, it's a whole lot of fun. Or if you can use logic your way into it, you won't get a more entertaining match. That to me, Eddie versus Claudio, that would have been a match of the night. So I don't know if it could have been match of the weekend because I think Eddie versus Claudio was just.
Well, I think when I say that could have stolen the weekend as maybe the best match is because I think a lot of people maybe who didn't know these two guys who would have been exposed to these guys got to see them and they put on a hell of a show. I don't disagree that Claudio Eddie match was fantastic. Surely, like could be match of the night on this card. But I think the interesting thing for me, the first thing I sort of want to dive into would be the Embassy retaining their titles because there was a lot of rumors going on there about Brian Cage and what was happening with his contract status. And the rumors were out there that Brian Cage was okay to drop the titles if he was going to be leaving, and they didn't drop the titles. But I personally haven't seen anything about out there unless I haven't been looking about Brian Cage's situation. So
Fightful reported earlier today he's working without a contract. So if he's leaving, he's doing business on the way out. If they're negotiating, he'll be signed in a little bit. So that's what the status looks like.
It does seem like it's based on what Fightful reported. Like they're on very good terms with each other. Like Tony has been, I want to keep this guy type deal. And that usually helps with a wrestler when they're like, oh, the guy really likes me.
Right. Of course. But I mean, of course, to me, them keeping is definitely telling the fact that he's not signed anywhere else yet. So there's still a chance.
Yeah. And listen, we were never I don't want to speak for us, but I will for a second. I don't think we were ever the podcast that was highest on his run in AEW.
Mm-hmm.
But since coming back and as part of this ROH thing, I've really enjoyed his work. And as he's been part of the Embassy, I think the Embassy is great. I think as a 6-man, and I think if they get done in ROH and they want to come up and try for trios in AEW, I'd be okay with it. Once I don't want the belts crossing, so they'd have to be done and move up type deal or move over, I should say. But I've been loving their work, so I'm okay that he's staying around at least for now.
Yeah, I do. So you're right there, Ryan. Like I was not the biggest fan of Brian Cage, but you are also correct in that when he came back to Ring of Honor, I've definitely, his work for me has been really, really strong. And maybe it's the fact that he's in this killer trio, with the Embassy, and all of these guys play off each other very well. And he doesn't need to be the focus all the time, that maybe it sort of helps hide any of his deficiencies, because I've sort of felt sometimes watching him in singles matches, like he'll come right out of the gate and do like be gangbusters. And then like, as the match goes on, like he slows down, he gasses out a little bit, not too much, or he just starts to get a little sloppy, maybe a little ahead of himself. I think it's really helped to have him in this strong 6-man situation with the Embassy, and his work has really impressed me. I think I even said it on here. Maybe it was a week when it was just you and me, Kate, or something like that. But I at some point I definitely said Brian Cage has definitely been getting better for me week over week, that we had been seeing him on like AEW television as part of Ring of Honor. So, I hope they do keep him, because I think he's good for Ring of Honor.
I mean, if you asked me a couple of weeks ago, I mean, if you could confidently tell me Vince wouldn't be in Power, I would have been like, get that guy to WWE, because he fits in so well with what the WWE landscape has been. I think Tony Khan's going to have a lot of contract leverage over the next couple months, at least until things settle. So my guess is he does stick around. There are also important people that are vying for him, meaning talent that are vying for him. So that's a really good sign. But I do think even before this ROH stuff began with the embassy, the couple matches that he had like on Rampage, I forget who it was against, but he had one really good big man match. Since coming back, I've really liked his work. And then on top of that, and you raised a good point, like sometimes people are more opponent dependent. And I think about Brian Cage, the one match I really liked of his beforehand was when he was facing Adam Page. Like that was his best of the earlier parts of the AEW of his run. And I think that's because Adam Page doesn't always work a million miles an hour and whatever. Like he has a little bit more stilted of a pace. So I think you're right. Some people just work better in certain contexts, like a 6-man or with certain opponents. I think that's super, super normal in wrestling. Some really great wrestlers just don't have chemistry with certain guys. The face turn absolutely ruined him. That was such a dumb move by AEW's part. But this embassy stuff is great. And most importantly, Prince Nana is the best. So.
Oh, he's been fantastic. Just fantastic. The other thing I want to touch on, if we're good moving on from the embassy, the women's match. Ryan, I was texting you during parts of the night too. And Kate, I'm just going to say this. Ryan doesn't know I'm going to say this. I feel like a lot of times when I'm texting with Ryan, I'm annoying him because he'll give me like 1-word responses.
No.
He'll be like, I'll be like, whoa, blah, 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 blah. He'll be like, yep. I'm like, is Ryan doing something way more important? That. Is he jerking off or something? I don't know.
If you generally speaking only text me during events like a pay-per-view or Dynamite, and I'm enthralled in what I'm watching.
It's personal.
It is personal.
He gets the same responses.
Ryan said, yeah, I definitely don't get the same responses. I don't also get, yep. He told me when it comes to Ant, I'm only business. That's what I was told. So
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Listen, when you text me during it, I was enthralled. The women's match started a little slow, and I thought by the end was great, and I was into it.
I said the same thing, Ryan. Give me that. Because I know.
No, it started slow, but by the end, your texting had changed. You started like, oh, this feels off, and by the end, you were like, oh, that was really good.
And yours changed because you were like, yeah, and then you were like, yep, huge difference.
Yeah, he said, yeah, and then just sometimes, Kate, even sometimes it wasn't even yeah or yup. It was just Y for yes.
Never.
It was just
never.
I was like, is he asking me why? No, he's just saying yes.
He thought it was like the next text that you get after Y, because I've been through it, he just goes unsubscribe. So
I'm like, this isn't a machine.
You realize the next time you text me during a wrestling, you're getting like a thesis.
Keep the faith, dude. Come on.
No. I'm saying if this is what we're doing, then the response is going to be like a novel.
Don't have a concern.
I also want you guys to realize too that the reason I text a lot during wrestling is because that's the dedicated time I have
to not
doing anything else, to not be doing any.
That's fair. Else. It's just funny. I get really
like
into
I'm
the
guaranteed
matches.
to be sitting and like watching wrestling.
Oh yeah.
But anyway, so in all honesty, back to what we were talking about, I was texting Ryan and saying, like the first half of this match, I'm like, Yuka looks like dog shit. Like, and I said to Ryan, I don't know if she really did tweak her neck or something, but there were certain points of that match where I'm like, if you're just selling the fact that you're hurt and you're really not forcibly kicking out, you got to do something to look better. Because there were moments, Ryan, I don't know if you thought, but there were definitely moments where I was like, at one point I thought Athena lifted her up because she wasn't going to kick out. Like it was.
Yeah, she did the light shoulder raise, but by the end,
she looked okay.
Like I said, I ended up really enjoying that match. Athena is on an all-time run. I don't care what anyone tells me. Like I don't care what company it is. She might be my favorite female heel in all of wrestling right now. She's up there with one of my favorite heels in general, but she's definitely top. Like She incorporates things to her character that all make sense. Her matches are just awesome and hard hitting, and all of it by a pure luck by beating up Jody Threat. Just pure luck.
But
ask me if I like the match.
Kate, what did you think of the match? Did you like it?
Yeah.
All right, moving on. That's all. That's all we're gonna get out of Kate.
I did like the match. I think. An empty stadium, just like how Philly should be. Is that in the UK? I'm sure it is.
That's Wembley.
I saw the red and I just
let's hope it doesn't look like that.
Yeah, let's fingers.
See, now you guys aren't going to know when I respond with my one-word answers.
Yes,
it sounds cavernous right now.
I understand where you're coming from, man. I think that was the story they were trying to tell. It just wasn't as well executed in the beginning. I was immediately suspicious by the placement of this match on this card. So I was like, oh, and then when they got into it, I was like, oh, now I get it. Because the pacing of this match was going to be this. It did win me over in the end. This version of Athena does absolutely rule, to Ryan's point. Like, if you were like, do you like this version? I'd be like, yep. So I think it's great. And it's nice because I think she's facing Yamashita tomorrow. So it's just good. Like, it feels like, because they don't have a women's division fully cemented yet, it feels like they're using that opportunity to build up Athena really well with people from other companies, people from the indies. Like, if you don't have a fully established women's division, we know Sky Blue is going to be there. We know Trisha Dora is going to be there. There's some that are kind of taking shape. I just think that's a really good way to do it, is having matches like that and letting Athena go on an absolute tear of just like, yeah.
You know, I had said to Ryan too, like, Athena's been great. I just wish they had, I wish there was a clear picture on sort of who her sort of true long form feud was going to be against. And, you know, I was saying to Ryan too, like, I feel like Taya would have been a great one for her to build a feud with, but obviously Taya's involved with Jade, and I have no problem with that because, you know, that's where she needs to be right now. But that wouldn't have bothered me either. I really want them to find somebody to set up a long-term sort of feud with Athena with. Doesn't take away, she's doing great work right now as a heel, working with what she's got. But I just really want them to find some sort of long-term, you know, opponent.
Because they had like the taping feud with Willow, and then they set most of this up on Dark. I think my guess is that you have Athena versus Yamashita this week, and something gets set up like after that match. Like, she has an open challenge or whatever.
Yep.
So I'm thinking it was like they got through that batch of tapings, they had the pay-per-view, and then what? They have a little bit more breathing room now that they're out of pre-tape mode.
For sure. And they're taping, they've been taping at live shows. I saw Caprice or Ian Riccaboni put a picture up of them taping at a live show.
We got a scoop about that at baseball. Thank you very much.
We did, although I don't want to blow up too many spots. Although I will say this, Kate, I thought maybe tonight, we were going to see our pal in the ring. Cadet? Yeah. I thought we were going to see our astronaut friend in the ring tonight when the BCC was in action, because they weren't supposed to be in action. We had just heard we're going to hear from them. And then when they were like entering the ring for their trios match, I was like, oh, we're going to see the astronaut, but we didn't. Anyway, let's move on. I do want to talk about Samoa Joe and Mark Briscoe. This match could have seriously gone either way. One of the, I don't want to say best because it wasn't best, but one of the, what's the word I'm looking for? One of the most interesting things I think was his family was ringside, or maybe it's not heartwarming. It's not sad. It's not depressing. I don't know what the
It's a
emotion is.
heartstring puller, is what it is.
I guess that's what I want to say. I was looking for a real, like a different term.
A sense of emotional gravity.
It was emotional. An emotional moment was after Mark Briscoe lost. They show his family and his daughters were crying. You know, like that he lost. It was emotional. But clearly he didn't get to cap off his story, right? So
nobody finished the story this weekend.
Nobody.
Something I learned.
Shibata did, but nobody else did. But I thought this match was fantastic. It is interesting to see Samoa Joe retain. I don't think we're done with Mark Briscoe and Samoa Joe. I think that he will maybe eventually conquer Joe, right? Like maybe he's going to be the guy who has to keep climbing the mountain, not literally like, you know, have to go through all these people to get back to Joe, but maybe just, you know, they'll have a rematch. He won't get there. And then he'll be like, I want one more shot. And then he gets it the third time or something. Who knows? But what a fantastic match. And I think when you look at something like this on paper, you're like, it's impossible that he'd have any shot against somebody like Samoa Joe. But just, I thought it was fantastic. Now, did either of you have a problem with the way that this played out?
Yeah.
Give it to me, Flo. Give it to me.
No,
Yep.
Okay. Kate, we've got Ryan's take.
I didn't have a problem with it per se, because I think the story is there. When Mark went to tag for his brother and he wasn't there, I legitimately cried. Like I actually had tears in my eyes when he went to go tag for Jay. I feel like the story is here. I have more of a problem with it, with this in tandem with the main event. But this in a vacuum, I did not have an issue with. Main event on top of it, I feel like first major pay-per-view, you've got way more eyes on it. You probably should have given them a feel-good moment. But I also think maybe the only thing more giving the people what they want than Eddie Kingston winning at the end of the night is maybe Mark Briscoe dethrones Claudio. Now, the other possibility is Mark Briscoe is in AEW. Like, this might not be where he's working. So that's, I think, also a part of booking here is who is working where for the next 6 months is probably something that we're going to be getting clarity on in the near future.
Yeah, and you know, to be honest, I mean, we could talk about
it.
Yeah, but I'll say this at the very least. I didn't necessarily have a problem with this or the main event the way they played out, because to me, this is just them starting to lay the groundwork of some long form stories. I know you got a problem with it, Kate. I know.
I got a problem with it, partner.
I know you do, Patna. I was going to say brother for a minute, but that's definitely not the right guy. So, like, I guess that's the only reason why I didn't necessarily have a problem, because they really just they built these stories awful quick, right, to get to the first pay-per-view, and now I think they can sort of let them start to sort of play out, right? Because now you've got a longer run to whatever's coming next, and you've got TV to continue to tell these stories. So I didn't necessarily have a problem. We'll see how a lot of this stuff starts to play out, but you know, if they don't pay off, then that's a problem. But I didn't have a problem with the way these stories sort of set up for the future.
I'll explain to you why you're so very wrong in your opinion at the main event.
Oh, okay. Well, if Ryan were to have a multi-word opinion,
sure.
We know he doesn't, but go ahead.
He doesn't, but if he were to have one, it would have been that I'm with Caden that this in a vacuum was fine. I was always 50-50 on this match, on who would win. There's actually a pretty decent story to tell from Mark Briscoe if you want to tell, like, you know, I wasn't ready yet mentally. You know, I was going through, like, there's a whole story there. Again, I have a bigger issue with the main event booking than I do this one. This one I was fine with because I was always 50-50 and felt like, yeah, the story here was, like you said, Ant, quick, thrown together, and there is a good story to come out of it if they want to go that route. When we talk about other bad booking decisions, I have a different opinion.
Okay, we will get there for sure. I don't really have too much to say about Tanahashi Garcia. you know, it is what it is. How you not going to have Tanahashi win? So I don't really have anything to say there.
You know who won?
Who won?
The fans.
I guess so. I did love the moment in that match though, where Garcia played his air guitar and then started salsa-ing. That was very fun. Or when he threw his guitar, when Tanahashi threw his guitar and Caprice and Riccoboni were like, "Ooh, catch it!" And Nigel's like, "What are you doing?"
Nigel was so awesome.
He was great. The Lucha Brothers defeating the rest of the field for the tag team titles. Now, this is one booking decision I am questioning. I guess I get what they're doing here, right? You're giving it from one brother team to another brother team. That makes sense.
And both of those brothers still have ankles.
Very true. Because I would have liked to see it go to the brother team that would have been Top Flight. But when one's ankle is dangling from their leg, you can't really do that. I don't think there was a pivot. I think it was supposed to always be Top Flight, right? Like there didn't look like anybody was scrambling to figure out what to do next. But I also would say this is I would have really preferred to even see a team like the Kingdom come out of this with the belts, because the Kingdom has true ties back to the history of Ring of Honor, right? I just don't necessarily love the Lucha Brothers because we already know what they can do. We know they are already very, very established, and they're AEW talent with, you know, without as many of those ties to Ring of Honor. I just don't love that decision.
I actually do, because I think in the betterment of the use of talent, I understand where you're coming from. I think passing it along to brothers makes sense. I felt silly that I didn't see this coming, considering Mark Briscoe did a trios match with both of these guys beforehand. And I think who else is going to, if you think about trying to get young talent over and making young tag teams look good, like who knows who's going to be coming in? There's nobody that's going to do that better than the Lucha Brothers. And they're also too valuable to not be getting used on AEW television, and they're not right now. Like, if it's like have them on a random Rampage every 3 weeks or this, I so prefer this, because I think no matter who you put them in the ring with, they're just going to make them look really, really good. And we're going to see the ROH tag team division fill in a lot. I agree. I don't think it was an audible. I don't think it was supposed to be Top Flight, but like Lucha Brothers versus anybody that you mentioned, Aussie Open, the Kingdom, whoever you bring in, I think having a team that's that established and makes people look as good as they do, that I think long term, that's probably a good decision.
I mean, I get everything you're saying, Kate. I just, you know, I don't know. I just wish it was Ring of Honor talent to win the belts, right? Because at this point, they just don't need AEW talent to be holding Ring of Honor belts. You know what I mean? So that's also sort of why I was hoping in the main event that Eddie would win it, because I'm like, well, Claudio's well involved in AEW. I know, there he is. I don't know.
Can you change my name back and change Ryan's to yeah? Because mine, I had not signed in. I can't.
You just saw that?
Ryan, I didn't even make any
I'm
comments
not so
on
self-obsessed that I'm constantly looking at my frame all the time.
It's literally just right there.
Ryan, do you have any thoughts on this match?
I think it was
cool.
more than smart to have an established high-level team who's considered one of the best in the world win this match, so that the Briscoes, the people that follow the Briscoes, are considered just at as high of a level, so it doesn't seem like the next team is just consolation prize and kind of hurts these new belts. You establish them with the highest level, and whoever beats them gets the real push and gets to be put over because they've beaten such a high level team and like in a regular match. So I actually think it was a very smart move.
That was more than one word. Thank you.
Yes, it was. It was at least 3.
I would love it if Ryan was like, I'm not going to give you a one-word response. It's cool.
It was great. I know I was surprised by Shibata going over Wheeler Yuta. Didn't see that coming. Only because, he's not a talent. You know what I mean? With Ring of Honor or AEW. I don't hate it. That's for sure. And it makes it very interesting to see that essentially this belt's gone through the forbidden door.
I think maybe we're setting up LA Dojo versus Blackpool Combat Club with this at Forbidden Door, which I think could be really, really fun.
It definitely could be.
Hell yeah.
Ryan's scoffing at this or something?
I'm going back. No, I'm going back on our conversation. I gave plenty of good responses. I am very bitter now.
Kate, he is. I've got. You know what I just did, Kate?
In the weeds, my friend.
No. I'm not in the weeds. I've moved in to a fucking penthouse apartment in Ryan's head right now, and I'm living rent free
in the sky,
rent free, baby.
Moving on.
Schlong,
do you really want to live in my head? It's a weird place.
It's I imagine that. I was gonna say it's a little cramped, and I don't know, might smell funky, but
it's got a lot of shit going on in there. I don't know if you want to be there. Shibata winning was awesome, completely unpredictable. He's not signed per the press conference afterwards. This is just part of the New Japan deal, which is actually pretty cool. Shows the trust in the partnership, and it looks like we'll have a Forbidden Door match that probably features an ROH belt. So that's pretty neat.
Should be fun. Now, Shigata. Now we're gonna go here first. I'm not even gonna say anything. Kate, I'd like your thoughts on Claudio and Eddie and the post stuff with Shibata.
Let me tell you something, partner. This was a bad booking decision, and I'll tell you why. You just can't go back to the well this many times with Eddie Kingston in this way. Like, I think you had a really good opportunity here to do a couple of things. The first one, Claudio's all over AEW, to your point. I think having him in both is not great. Secondly, I thought when Wheeler Yuta lost, you were going to do and then Claudio lost, and now Blackpool Combat Club is pissed off because nobody has gold. Moxley has no title. Nobody has a title in the Blackpool Combat Club. Daniel Silverado just lost his title. Moxley is without gold after usually being with gold. Claudio and Wheeler don't have titles is a really compelling Blackpool Combat Club for them to go to the next level of destruction. Eddie Kingston's character was different in this story. He also quit AEW to come to ROH in this story. I feel like he made such a pivot to not give into the temptations of all the stuff Claudio was going to say about him of you're going to throw a temper tantrum after you always do, all this bullshit. He acted differently. And for him, it was also about the title, not about Claudio in this case. It was about the lineage of the title and all of his mentors and all of these things. So if you're going to have Eddie Kingston have the same story over and over again, the time that he pivots his character should be the time that he goes over. I think it also is a clean exit for Claudio. I think it's possible we get Eddie Kingston versus Samoa Joe, so I'm not going to complain about that. And I was intrigued by the post-match for sure. And I also don't know if this is over yet, but I don't know if I necessarily like that either, because Eddie Kingston's trek to the top of the mountain is already long enough. Now, the match itself was fucking great. Great. And I actually really like Claudio, this version of Claudio as a champion, but I just feel how many times are you going to set up Eddie Kingston to not win? And I also think it's your first major pay-per-view since you've been back up and running. You didn't really give anybody feel-good moments. I mean, the Lucha Brothers, yeah, but I feel not in their control. That what people were talking about coming out of that match was what a great moment. Also, Dante has no ankle anymore. Right. So I just feel from a bias perspective, of course I want Eddie to be champion. I think if you're going to have someone quit the company, pivot their entire character after kind of replaying the same trope, that should be the time they go over. And I also feel like Claudio is so heavily involved in AEW. I don't want an ROH champion who's going to be absent. So that was a bummer. The match fucking ruled. I wouldn't be shocked if they ran this back. Maybe not even immediately, but I think there's some really good stuff that could come here. I also think Mark Briscoe winning the world title that his brother also held when he wasn't there is a whole, like, a huge can of worms in a really, really good way. Like, that could open some really exciting possibilities. So, loved the match. Didn't love the result from the fact that I'm an Eddie Mark, and I think it's a way it's getting detrimental to him, and the story could have been really a lot better if they just switched it.
You said simp wrong. I'll say this too. What I like about sort of rolling forward too is after the posing and the Blackpool Combat Club left, before they went off air, Eddie grabs the mic and he cursing a bunch and he's like, "I'm coming for you, Claudio, this isn't over." And then in the press conference, Claudio was asked about Eddie and, how he conducted himself or whatever. And he's like, "That's not how a champion conducts himself." He grabs the mic and he starts cursing on TV. Like, that's not the conduct becoming of a champion. So I do love that piece of this too. Right.
Yeah. Claudio has been excellent through this.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I don't think it's over. I think they're going to do this again at some point. I don't know when, but I think it'll happen. Schlong, you want to give any final words on this?
What Kate said.
Okay. That's fine.
No, I mean, realistically, exactly what she said is how I felt.
Okay.
You're really running the risk of ruining the Eddie character story by continuously having him lose and telling the same story of like, oh, he's got to do it this time. It's like, eventually, we're not going to believe he's ever going to do it.
I could also have seen this turning Eddie heel of like, I tried to do the right thing and it got me nowhere. But I think you also don't want to do that right now with Eddie Kingston.
No, I don't think that's the choice you make with Eddie. I think you keep him face. I think he will turn heel at some point against the right face, but this isn't the moment, right? Claudio's clearly the heel. So you need a face to go after him. And that's Eddie.
You do. You need a good boy partner.
That's right. A good boy partner. We're going to take a break here momentarily, but I think we wanted to talk about this before we took a break. Big news tonight during the broadcast for Dynamite. The big announcement from Tony Khan. As you can see, Ryan has already made his way out to bloody England. All right.
Wow.
What?
Get those miles, dude. Get those air miles. You're traveling international.
Coach, business, how you going?
First class, baby.
First class? I mean, you might as well just split the difference with business. You don't have to pay.
No. Mark Order takes care of its people.
Thanks.
We sent you down to Jacksonville first class.
Okay, hold on. Let me explain something. That wasn't on Mark Order dime. That was during Shining Wizard's bonus content, and I paid out of pocket, my friend. I paid out of pocket. You know why?
You were reimbursed. I've seen the financials.
Not true.
That was because that was before we had T-shirts and ways
That's
to
right.
support us financially.
That's right. And the other thing too, Ryan, is I was showing the dedication to the Shining Wizards brass within the network that basically paved the way for the Mark Order podcast, because they were like,
showing
this
dedication by going to England.
I ain't paying for
now,
it. I know that much.
When the pay-per-view's in August, so
it does seem perhaps like a miscalculation, right?
Yeah. I think you're going to be there a little too long, but it's okay. You know what? If you went over there to get used to their foreign customs, and be prepared, then I think you're going to have plenty of time to do that.
My God, I want Ryan to be like, Yes, I did enjoy that match.
On the CNN delay.
That'd be really
we
funny.
did get a big surprise tonight early in the show. Yeah. Yes, I'm hearing that.
You look behind me, people are just filtering in.
And I'm standing here at the arena.
Yeah. Ryan Schlong here with the Mark Order podcast, standing in front of an empty arena, which one day will be a little less empty.
Back to you.
And
This
then
arena was once full. It is now empty. Is that not the story of our time?
Thank you, Ryan, for that report. So the big announcement tonight, that was going to be by Tony Khan. My first thought was going to be it was a UK show announcement. I also thought maybe it was going to be this rumored Saturday night show. And then my sort of shot in the dark, pie in the sky announcement might have been that at some point they were going to add a third hour to Dynamite, because there may have been talk about that. Wound up being the UK show announcement, but I'll say this, guys, I did not think it was going to be the pay-per-view they announced. So they did announce that AEW will be taking All In will be taking place in the UK, and then they announced that it would be taking place at Wembley Stadium, which is fucking massive. Now I'll say this. Tickets go on sale May 5th. There is pre-registration available for priority access. There's a whole press conference out there. I'm not going to fucking read through the whole thing. But the event is happening. I'm just looking for the exact date. August 27th, Sunday, August 27th. What is going to be interesting from our standpoint, guys, is that show, the time difference is 5 hours. They're 5 hours ahead. So if that show's taking place at 8 o'clock British Standard Time, it will have to take place at 3 p.m. here, Eastern Standard Time. So
I think that's what they did when WWE did Clash at the Castle. I think it was like either 3 or 4.
It has to be.
Yeah, I think it was 3.
It has to be. It's just going to be weird to have a major pay-per-view like that at 3 in the afternoon, and then, what do you do with the rest of your night on a Sunday? Well, I guess that's up to you, but it just always feels weird to have something super early, like that's big. Because usually it's a prime time event. But
I am concerned in that Arthur Ashe's 23,770 people and Wembley Stadium is 90,000
plus, because they're going to fill in the floor.
That's right. Yeah.
So,
boy.
Now I'll say this. There are fans in Europe and in Europe and beyond who can get to the UK who definitely want this, right? They want a live product in the UK. So I get it. I think it's an overreach with the stadium, but who knows? We could all get surprised, right? Like, are there that many people who will go? I guarantee you there's going to be people from the US who are going to make that trip. But that's a big stadium to try to fill. They're going to have to really pull something off that's crazy. And I wasn't even thinking of this, but is there a shot that Nigel McGuinness steps back into the ring?
It may be in like a tag team one spot safe submission thing, but from my understanding, I think it was his neck is like pretty like permanently royally fucked. I also don't think that's enough. I think if you're looking to pull off 100,000 people, like that feels like you need like Mercedes and CM Punk and Brock Lesnar or something. Like 100,000 people is a lot of people. Like Pac isn't selling that out. You know what I mean? Like,
I mean, Kip Sabian is though.
Kip Sabian, obviously, but like you have to. I'm trying to think of like a big UK name that would be available for that.
Well, I know for sure you'll get Pac and probably Kip Sabian for sure. My guess is you'll also get Saraya versus Jamie Hayter if Jamie Hayter makes it that long with the belt, right? So
Yes, for
that's a
sure.
big match in the UK. I just truly don't know who else you've got unless you start to pull out some of the New Japan talent, right? Like, can you get Will Ospreay on the card for All In? Can you pull Aussie Open over? I know it's not, they're not UK Aussie but like, close enough. You're right though. That's my thing is what I'm just
What
thinking ahead.
blockbuster name is going to sell tickets is like a...
It ain't going to be Brock.
No. I was just kind of like...
No, I know. It ain't going to be Brock. To the people who think it could be, oh my God, Drew McIntyre. That ain't fucking happening.
That could actually logically happen, but you wouldn't plan it counting on that happening.
He's not going to be up till I think like closer
July.
to Q4.
I thought it was July is what I was saying.
Oh, really? I thought there were 2 dates floating around. There was like
either way,
and then, but I don't think,
even if he was done tomorrow, you don't book this. You don't book Wembley before you've had conversations with him. If you
the
need
only
him to
thing
sell it out.
I'll say is there are a lot of WWE contracts that are coming up. It would be illegal for them to have had conversations with people, but there are a lot of people that their contracts are up. We'll see what happens. I don't know if any. I don't know who they are, or if any of them are UK talent. I just know that there are deals that are coming up soon. So maybe there's been conversations that shouldn't have taken place that have taken place.
Well, I do know one thing. There's definitely talent to put in that ring.
So aggressive.
I also, here's basically the only other question I have for you guys is, does this announcement live up to the important announcement hype? I think it does, being the fact that it's a pay-per-view and at the stadium it's taking place. Like, it doesn't necessarily affect us, but to a worldwide audience in the UK, it's definitely a huge announcement.
If they pull off 90 to 100,000 people in a stadium, that's incredible. Like that's WrestleMania, their WrestleMania moment. Like that's doing something that no one thought they could do. I don't think a UK show alone would have been worth the hype. Like if they're like, hey, we're playing this random, we're going to be at this random, 10,000 seat arena. No, that's like, okay, good for you. You're going overseas. But to say Wembley, not just 100,000 people, but Wembley,
right?
That is as huge. If they pull this off, which again, I think a lot of us are like, how? But if they do, holy God, like that is their moment.
Now, I have no expectations anymore about Tony Khan announcements, so it's fine. The last one was about Shazam. I'm not getting emotionally invested.
I will say that it was interesting when they made the announcement and they had Adam Cole. It's very interesting. For 2 of the big announcements now, they've had Adam Cole be the guy to make those announcements.
The designated announcer.
I mean, you need somebody, so I guess it's Adam Cole, and good for Adam Cole. But what I found very interesting was the fact that Adam Cole made sure to mention Warner Brothers. He said something like, with AEW and Warner Brothers and whatever, like this will be one of the biggest event, celebrating Wembley's 100th, year. So, maybe this wasn't necessarily just their decision. Maybe this was something when they were like, we want to play, we want to do the UK, we want to do something. Maybe Warner Brothers was the one, was part of the say and being like, let's shoot for Wembley. We'll help push it, whatever. Because they definitely want something big.
This is also, by the way, All In 2, which is pretty cool.
Yes.
So I don't think I realized that wasn't super clear from Tony Khan's announcement that this was also going to be called All In, but I think that's really cool.
Well, he did say All In, but I think that goes over a lot of people's head. You know what I mean? Like,
Well,
because it's
he
been all out.
referenced the first one, but like he was like the four innovators before AEW even existed, blah blah blah, all in. And so I thought it might be, but they didn't actually. I don't think he actually said it.
He did. He said on August 27th, we're coming to the UK for All In.
Oh, good. Okay.
So he said All In, but he didn't really harp on it. But again, I do think it does go over a lot of people's head because the pay-per-view is called All Out. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
and this is the week after, I think.
Right. But yeah, I mean it's it's gonna be big.
The only thing I think of when WWE goes over there, they don't just go over there for a pay-per-view. They'll do Raw, they'll do SmackDown, they'll do like if AEW is smart when they're trying to pack this stadium, you only do the one show. So that people don't buy tickets to a bunch of things. They're buying your one show tickets, at least until they're sold. If you get enough and you could do something else after, fine, but you only sell this one show. They're probably going to be trying to find every big British star or European star they can get their hands on to be on this card.
I think you have to. I mean, you have to. You have a few, good names on your roster right now, but I honestly don't know who else moves the needle to be able to fill the seats that much. You know what I mean? Like,
but my question also becomes, I know this is going to sound, this is where I think the one show thing comes into effect. If we were told here in New Jersey, Philly, New York area, the three, you're only going to get this one show for the next couple years, you might actually be able to get 90,000. People knew that this was their only chance to go. Like, they couldn't go anywhere else in the United States. This was your show.
Right. Yep.
That's if you figure they're pulling like between 800,000 and 1 million though in America, 90,000 in the UK is a fucking big.
That's a lot. Yeah.
That's a big number.
My guess is
I don't think they take the risk unless it's a calculated one and they have something huge planned. That's why I was like, okay, maybe that is a Punk thing. Maybe that is a Mercedes thing. Because you don't commit to a 90,000 ticket sale without something major that would bring in fans in the UK who aren't diehards. Because there ain't that many. Let's think of like the population of, and I know people from all over the UK will come, but like just England is not that big of a country.
Right. But I mean, it again, I think that this is something that people have wanted in the UK, right? So you're going to get everybody who's wanted it. If, as Ryan said, if this is really just the only show that they're running there that week, right? Or at the very least, you're going to open with this and then you'll do the following Wednesday night. You're not doing the Wednesday before, you're doing the Wednesday after or something like that. I think that if they can basically turn this into like another Forbidden Door, maybe not necessarily saying like Forbidden Door, but if you can get enough synergy with New Japan, I think there is a ton of UK, wrestling fans who are not way more into, but are well versed enough in New Japan that would drive some tickets. And then again, like I said, the United States isn't really like in the UK. It seems like, or not the UK, in Europe and a lot of other places, it seems like you can really sort of make that trip pretty easily, right? Like,
yeah, it's a 2-hour train ride or whatever. Yeah.
Right. So you can come from all over, Europe. I think you'll definitely, if you get the right people, you'll get people from Japan making their way over, right? Because you could take a trip for that. You can take a trip for that. And if you're not going to get AEW in Japan anytime soon, this might be your only chance to get to see them live, right? Unless they're going to, any talent's going to come run a New Japan show. But I mean, it is just how they going to
mind-boggling number for them to try to pull.
It is.
But if they pull that off, someone tweeted, I forget who, but it is like their Mania thing. If they pull it off, that they will prove that they're in a league that people didn't put them, don't believe they're in, and would be huge. Yeah,
it would be huge. Either way, that I'll give it. That's a pretty big announcement. The fact that it is a pay-per-view, in Wembley fucking Stadium. That's just a wild announcement. So we'll see. We'll see. But I will certainly say this, to Ryan's point: if they can fill this fucking stadium, that's something. I think if you're the other side saying they're not the competition and they fill this fucking building, whether it's half papered or not, you got to be seriously looking at them being like, holy shit.
Well, especially now, because I think there's a vulnerability.
Oh, there's definitely a vulnerability. And we're going to talk a little bit about a big miss from the WWE and a big gain for the AEW fans when we get back. I do want to take a true commercial break just because I have to, take a pee-pee. So why don't we do this? Let's take a little break.
You take a pee-pee.
What's that, Kate?
You take a pee-pee.
I'm going to take a pee-pee and maybe grab a refill on a drink. And you guys can do a stretch. We're going to come back and talk about Dynamite tonight because it was a fantastic show. I see a whole bunch of people just getting into the chat. Don't go away. We're coming right back. We haven't talked Dynamite yet. We're going to get into it right after a few words from some of the other programs that are part of the wonderful Shining Wizards Network.
I'd like to thank each and every one of you for tuning in every Monday night to listen to the Shining Wizards. If you'd like to continue to support us outside of listening, we've got a few ways for you to do that. If you shop at Amazon, go over to amazon.shiningwizards.com, do your shopping as usual, and when you make your purchase, a little bit of that purchase price will go back to support the show. If you like to wear t-shirts, merch.shiningwizards.com will take you to our Pro Wrestling Tees store, where we've got over a dozen great designs from over 11 years of professional wrestling podcasting. You can become a Patreon supporter at patreon.com/wizardspodcast, where each and every week we call out your name as one of our show producers, and the more you support us, the more things that you're entitled to receive, and believe me, they are fantastic. If you can't support us monetarily, if you don't shop at Amazon, that's absolutely fine. Continue to listen to us wherever you listen to us on the World Wide Web, and make sure you like, rate, review, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Doesn't cost you anything, helps us out, and we can continue to bring you the love fest that is the Shining Wizards.
What's up, folks? It's your boy, the Impact Player, Mr. Philly Ray, inviting all of you to check out the Turnbuckle Throwbacks Wrestling Podcast. Join us as we cover all things current in the world of pro wrestling, as well as paying homage to the old school, the Squared Circle. So listen in and find out why we are the recognized symbol of excellence in sports entertainment broadcasting. Find us on all social media platforms and anywhere you get your podcast from. And as always, we are the proudest members of the Shining Wizards Network and Rant Entertainment Media.
Are you tired of being lied to every day by the mainstream media?
Do you want to know what's really going on in the world?
Do you want to make up your own mind about things and not be told what to think or say?
Then listen to Inconclusive Breakdown, a weekly anti-PC look at the world of entertainment and current events, brought to you without censorship or filters.
You can find us everywhere you listen to podcasts, BitChute, and on ShiningWizardsNetwork.com.
And also, we're a proud member of the Shining Wizards Network.
Got 30 minutes to kill?
Come check out 30 Screams or Less, where we review a horror movie in 30 minutes or less. We cover new movies and old ones too.
We'll give our honest thoughts on the movie, good or shit, as well as a rating of each one that we watch.
New episodes weekly, available on the Shining Wizards Network and wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.
I'm Steve.
And I'm Corey.
Come check us out at 30 Screams or Less.
G'day guys, my name is Thomas, one half of the Broadcast Podcast. With our podcast, we go back and watch wrestling events from WWE, WWF, WCW, ECW, AEW, and many other wrestling promotions. You can check us out on Twitter at The Broadcast, that's TheBrokast, and you can also download all episodes on Apple Podcast, Castbox, Castro, and many other podcast apps.
You like your music heavy? Then check out Radioactive Metal on the Shining Wizards Network. For over 16 years now, Radioactive Metal has been one of the longest running podcasts. Over the years, we've interviewed some legendary metal acts had some awesome discussions, and cranked a hell of a lot of tunes. So join your cool Uncle Snowy and his co-host Aaron for the audio mosh pit that is radioactive metal here on the Shining Wizards Network.
Well, the action is underway!
What's up, everyone? When on the Shining Wizards Network, be sure to check out Wrestling Night in Canada. If we're not recording another kick-ass podcast,
Or playing in punk bands.
Or recording kick-ass heavy metal albums.
then we're sitting back, we're grabbing a couple brews, and going over everything to do in the world of pro wrestling.
Because we're from Winnipeg, you idiots.
The Mark Order Podcast is the only show you need if you're looking for dedicated coverage of everything AEW on the Shining Wizards Network. Join us live on YouTube every Wednesday night at 10:15 p.m. Eastern after Dynamite to chat along with the show. If you can't join us live, listen to us on your favorite podcast platform. Follow us on all social channels at MarkOrderPod and use the hashtag #JoinTheMarkOrder, because if you don't find us,
we will find you.
I'm Kevin Rowe.
I'm Al Day.
And we're a couple of down under pounders that co-host Rogue Day Dots, an action figure collecting podcast where we talk about, well, just about anything that tickles our fancy at any given moment.
We're grumpy old men, and sometimes people get on our nerves. And when you get on our nerves, guess what? You get off the lawn.
Get off my lawn, asshole! We also go on a little bit of a mission. We go back and we're grading every wrestling figure line that's out there. I'm talking LJNs. I'm talking Jacks. I'm talking Hasbros. Who doesn't like a little Hulkaplex? It's a Gorilla Brain Wrestling podcast production found on the Shining Wizards Network.
I'm Duke Bags.
Kevin Rowe.
And together we are the co-hosts of Your Duke and Road. If you want to hear about some terrible wrestling shows, we got you covered.
Well, we talk about good ones, too.
We're currently talking about the death of WCW.
I know what we're fucking talking about. Sometimes we get guest spots, like from the Taskmaster. I like to listen to the Your Duke and Rope podcast. They're funny guys. I like when they talk about the Nards plows. I like Nards plows. That's a good move. And I like the Dungeon of Doom. You know, sometimes I call my butt the Dungeon of Doom. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, to Oklahoma.
Let me tell you a little bit about my favorite wrestling podcast. All right. It's a podcast from two men, Duke Bags, Kevin Rowe. They talk about professional wrestling. It's a man's sport. All right? And who better to talk about a man's sport than Duke? Oklahoma.
And once in a while, Vince Russo stops by.
Whoa, you piece of shit! If you're not listening to the Your Duke and Rope podcast in the back with the boys, you piece of shit, I don't know what you're doing. It's, you gotta slide one in there. If you're a man, you're talking about something only a man can do. You're talking about sliding one in there. Bro, take the time to slide one in there. All right, bro, you piece of shit. Slide one in there. A Gorilla Brain Wrestling podcast production that you can find on the Shining Wizards Network.
All right, we are back here live on the Mark Order Podcast. A couple pieces of business before we get into Dynamite. If you would like to support us, go over to our socials, hit our link tree up. We've got a link for you to get some free stickers. Just send us your name, your mailing address, the country you live in, and give me your email too, just in case I have questions about your address. And we'll send you out some of these free Mark Order Podcast stickers. No charge. We'll send them anywhere in the world too. So if you're listening in the UK, Australia, Canada, wherever, hit us up. We'll send them out. The other thing we'd like to mention, yes, Jason Major, I did have a good pee-pee. The other good thing that we would like to mention is that if you'd like to support us financially, if you have the means to do so, you can head over to our Pro Wrestling Tees store. We have a link in our link tree, or you can go to prowrestlingtees.com/markorderpod or search Mark Order Podcast on Pro Wrestling Tees, and you'll find our store with our t-shirts in it. We got a couple single prints, a couple double-sided prints. So if you'd like to support us, that is one way you could do that. And we appreciate anybody who decides they'd like to do that. I'm not going to waste our time here, guys, but I did get a box from Ringside Collectibles today with a new batch of figures. And I'll just say this. They look really, really good. There's the Brody Lee. There's Ruby Soho. The Owen Hart is in this box. They all look really good. And the Supreme. Sorry, Kate, I had you muted because we heard you before. Oh, sorry. And also the Supreme Lucha Brothers look fucking great. So
the Ruby one's good. I didn't know.
You want to see it?
Yeah, I would love to actually.
Let's see. Oh, I pulled out Malachi Black. Looks good.
I'm shocked Kate wants to see this.
Malachi?
Well, just from I'm always intrigued by tattoos, and she has such a specific aesthetic, and
hold on, I'm turn off the light.
The short hair and stuff. Like hair seems to be the thing that they just don't get right on figures. I feel like.
No, she looks good.
That's pretty good.
She looks good. The Brody looks really good. Here's Brody.
Wow, that looks really good.
He looks really good. Sorry, you're catching a lot of glare from my screen.
It's okay.
And let's see. Here's the Owen. The Owen also looks really good. This is part of the Luminaries collection.
Whoa.
Sorry, I'm trying to avoid the glare.
That one.
That's a good one. And then since I have the box, the Supreme collection they did for the Lucha Brothers, where they had they were dressed up. I don't remember which pay-per-view this is from. All Out in 2021. Look fucking cool, man.
Whoa.
There's Penta.
The headpiece thing looks awesome.
Yeah, and here's the Phoenix. The Phoenix also looks very cool.
Dang.
So they look really, they came out really good.
Your guys look good.
Those are my guys.
Play with your little boys.
Let me just put these away. Because now they're
Put your toys away, Aunt.
They're all sitting on the desk now. I got no room. No room. You guys could talk.
Well, we're waiting. I mean, we're respectful.
I'm just now that we talked about it, I'm just trying to think of who is big enough and how many people that are big enough to sell that out. Is it Nigel versus Danielson?
Oh my God.
He was pushing that hard on commentary.
He certainly was, but it is, the hepatitis is, a problem. So
it's the thing.
Anyway, let's dive into Dynamite, because right off the bat, we go into Ricky Starks making his entrance. Juice is already in the ring for their big grudge match. And as Ricky is up on the ring post posing, all of a sudden the music hits and out comes the Switchblade, Jay White. And they lay the beat down on Ricky Starks. So it's a no contest.
Which is rare in AEW too. Which
It
is kind of cool.
It is. It is cool. I think that they did it right. My only beef was that the production sort of missed his entrance. But I mean, if you didn't know by the music, it is what it is. But I mean,
there's also a giant Juice is there.
Yep.
There's a Bullet Club graphic, and I know he got kicked out, but let's put two and two together.
It is it was huge. Commentary definitely made a big deal out of it, saying the biggest free agent in all of pro wrestling is here tonight. And it didn't take long for it to become official that Jay White is All Elite Graphic, which of course that's exactly what you'd expect. So it's huge news. I mean, and I'll say this. I'll say this. Sorry, I'm looking at what you just sent over, Kate. That's a good one. It is huge news, and as I said before, I had tuned in. I very rarely tune into anything WWE. Like I said, the first time I turned it on was just a happenstance for the Mania main event on Sunday for Cody. And then, I turned it on for Raw at the start of Raw only because during the day I had seen the rumors that Cody was scheduled for a tag match with a surprise partner. And immediately I was like, fuck, this is it. Like, he's there. It's over. And when I saw what was going on, I was like, all right, it's playing out. And then when Paul Heyman said, you can choose your partner, but it's got to be somebody who wrestled this weekend, I was like, okay. At WrestleMania, I was like, they don't fucking have him. They don't got him, and they're not going to get him. Like, that's the moment where I was like, it's over. They missed the boat. And so I was anticipating this tonight. I wasn't necessarily anticipating it right out of the gate, but what better way to fucking do it?
Oh yeah, you have to if you're AEW, that just makes good sense. So there had been, Sean had reported that as little as 3 weeks ago, there were people who were optimistic he was going to be there. It sounds like those conversations got a lot quieter in January. But if you are coming off of, they didn't give Cody the title, and then atrocious episode of Raw. I mean, almost 3 hours of shit wall to wall. It was a terrible episode of Raw. Nothing made sense. And it's a Raw that had high expectations. If that's what you're coming off of as any competition, you start the show with the guy that they missed the boat on 100%. I love this. I thought it was a really, really fun angle for him to enter into, because Ricky Starks is like, okay, he's not champion right now. He already did his Jericho feud because they have that weird pacifier situation. But Ricky is he is a top guy, if not the top guy.
Kate, I need to just pause for a second because Ryan, there is a chat specifically for you here. Billy Shears is checking in, and Billy wanted you to know that you're very attractive and wants to know if you have an Instagram, because he took a screenshot to show his boyfriend how hot you are.
Ryan, what is the burner?
We're done with this already. Read his next comment.
It's fine.
No.
It's okay. I don't give a fuck what anyone has to say. I get paid at the most successful wrestling outlet in the world most nights a week. Cry.
I care.
Oh, Ryan.
Well,
do you have an Instagram though?
No.
Oh.
It's obviously also Ryan's own burner. He's like dogging on me.
He's got
hype. He's gassed himself up. Why isn't he blocked yet?
Right. I assumed Ryan was going to take care of it, but I will say this: Ryan has an OnlyFans, if you can find it, and the content is spicy, to say the least.
Very spicy. Literally, it's just me eating hot wings.
Come on, man!
It's Ryan in a navy t-shirt. It's Ryan in a gray t-shirt.
No,
it's Ryan in a white t-shirt. It's Ryan with a white t-shirt and a backwards Phillies hat. It's Ryan in a white t-shirt with a forwards Phillies hat. So a sneak peek right here.
Can you just turn it around real quick, Ryan? Oh my god! Oh my god! We did the one chip challenge, Jason Major. It's on our Instagram somewhere.
I agree with Cabbage Sensei. That was a bad troll attempt.
It's okay, Ryan. I just wanted to. I was hoping to continue to play into.
I would listen. I would have more than welcome played along with the first part of that troll, because I'm whatever. I knew that was a troll. The second part just annoyed me. I was like, I'm not going to play if you're going to go that route.
I do. I do like to, you did try to get some cabin boys in on the cruise, so we're just trying to make sure that people stay up to
I
date.
was ready to go. You saw me dead stop, and then the next
Cabin
comment,
Sensei
I played
raising
that
the
for-
point that it's onlyfans.com/thecaptain.html.schlong.
No, that's not Ryan though.
No, it's a cosplay thing.
All right, well.
Anyway, let's talk about Dynamite.
So I don't disagree with you. You lead with that, and especially because first of all, I wasn't 100% sure too if they'd sort of open with this, just because there was so much on this card tonight, so many championship matches, like almost all the titles were on the line. Well, actually, no, almost all. The heavyweight title wasn't on the line, but what do you expect? MJF doesn't wrestle for free, motherfucker.
No, he does not.
So I wasn't sure if they'd lead with it, but obviously perfect choice because it immediately catches all the headlines, and you've just destroyed a 3-hour Raw after Mania within the first 5 minutes. So, I mean,
they didn't need help doing that, but yeah.
That solidifies it in 5 minutes. I am just very relieved that this is where Jay White decided to go, because I didn't have much hope for Jim Black, the Bowie knife, in the WWE. I just really didn't.
Flip Black Shears is a tough one. No, I think Triple H probably would have known how to book him, because I feel like Jay White, if he could fit in on any brand in the past 10 years, it would have been like Black and Gold NXT. We haven't seen that translate to the main roster that much, but I think I could have seen that working, especially with so many new champions coming out of Mania. There's a lot of places he could have just kind of like slid into, but I do feel like because there's so much crossover too with other promotions, and there's so much history to play off of, I think this is a really nice home for Jay White. So I'm excited. I'm just excited for like this opening feud that we're getting. Like, I feel like Ricky and Jay is something that I would want to book off the top of my head like immediately.
It's great for Ricky Starks. I mean, you are now, you assume he's going to be in this storyline with the guy who was the biggest free agent out there. I mean, even if you're not coming out on top, you are, you're in it. You know what I mean? He's the guy, you're the guy he jumped on his first night. You know what I mean? Like,
you're immediately a viable threat. And the way Ricky is on the mic with how charismatic Jay is, I think that's just going to be a like delicious little combination for a while. It's gonna be really fun.
Also throws a nice not wrinkle, but it throws a nice, sort of like hook into the story where Jay White had to leave New Japan, but he can still interact with New Japan now. Because
it was like my third thought. I was like, Eddie's gonna have to get rehired at AEW to come kick this guy's ass again.
Right. So and also Jay White looked fantastic. He's never looked like shit, but he looked great. In his debut, and physically looked great. So I think this is a win, a clear win for them. Biggest guy out there. I'm all fucking for this, and there's a lot here for them to dig into. Schlong, you've been quiet over there. Any multiple word answers you'd like to respond? Comments?
This was different. I'm very happy. I was okay with if he had gone to WWE. I'm okay where anyone goes. I don't really care, but like I don't care in the sense of like do what makes you happy. But I was okay if he had gone to WWE as it had been booked before Mania, because like Kate said, Triple H I think would have known what to do with him. Post, not a lot of faith. What was different was I can't remember them ever introducing a guy this way, where he kind of just runs out and is like, oh, he's there. But I think it's awesome. It makes a statement, and it's great for Ricky Starks, because now Ricky Starks has, they know how big of a star Jay White is in terms for their fan base. They know how important he's going to be to the companies. So it says a lot for Ricky Starks that the first person they put him into a feud with is Ricky Starks. It says a lot for him, that Jay White and him. I'm curious what they're going to do with the Juice Robinson thing now, because you now have, ignoring that Jay got kicked out of Bull Club, you have they're clearly on the same side.
Mhm.
Are they starting their own little faction? Are they just going to partner up? Not be tag partners necessarily, but they're together. I mean, this is awesome. You know, he's what, 30 years old. He's already a star in Japan. He's
worldwide. He's a star.
Yeah, he wouldn't have been like I will say this from the point of view of him, I don't doubt he would have been eventually a huge star in WWE. He would not have started out as one because the audience just doesn't translate the same. Like AEW has the hardcore fans who know New Japan. WWE gets a lot more of the WWE fans are WWE fans for the most
Mhm.
part. Like they know what goes
Mhm.
on within their circle. So I don't know if he would have been a star right away. Eventually would if he's too talented. Matt's gonna lose his goddamn mind.
Yeah, that's the one.
We're gonna get Omega versus Switchblade. We're gonna get Danielson versus Switchblade. We're gonna get Adam Page versus Switchblade. We're gonna get
here's an interesting thing too is you've also got Adam Cole just coming back, right? So
Baby.
Adam Cole's here. Thank you. And Juice is still hanging around in this picture with Starks. So maybe there's a little bit of some tag team we could put together. This could be something to get Adam Cole involved with too, to sort of get him going maybe on a path with Jay White. Because Adam,
like he's preoccupied with Jericho though.
that is, well, don't know. We get into our next segment, and we don't know what's going to go on with Jericho. Well, we do for next week, but I mean, there's a lot of ways they can go. I mean, again, as Ryan was running down, like you can have this guy versus, you know, Jay White. Like there are so many ways you could go, and Jay White's got history with so many of these guys that you don't have to burn them all at once. Clearly, like they've got enough meat on the bone that you can run him and Kenny Omega like 4 months down the road. You know what I mean? Like
I'm like almost more excited for like him versus Swerve or whatever. You know what I mean? Like those ones that are going to be incredible that we're not thinking about, as opposed to the obvious ones that are sitting on the surface. Like I want to see him versus, if Kyle O'Reilly's able to get back in the ring. Are you Jay White versus KOR all day?
Yeah.
That's kind of, I guess, on the more obvious side. But there's so many sleepers of who he doesn't have history with that I think could be very, very interesting here.
I mean, his first feud, Ricky Starks, that's going to be a hell of a feud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to be incredible.
And again, that's great for goddamn Ricky Starks. I mean, just it's going to be fantastic. He's established. He's been the guy who's been out there. This is a win 20 times over, you know, for what they can do. Just fantastic to see that come off the bat. And then we go into, as we mentioned, Chris Jericho. He's getting interviewed by Shivani backstage as to why he came out sort of after Garcia's loss to Adam Cole. And with Cole, it's always good, you know, to see one of the brothers come back from serious injury, and he got the win and the girl and the celebration. But Garcia, you know, one of his sort of right-hand men and great talent, was left laying in the ring, and Adam punked him out and made him look like trash. So he had to stop the disrespect. But that's when Keith Lee rolls up and says Jericho's been the poster child for disrespect, and he himself has had a couple of wars with Adam Cole. And while he's not fond of him, he has his respect, and he's proud of that. And maybe next week in Milwaukee, Keith Lee's going to teach Jericho a thing or two about respect. And Jericho sort of like slinks back and looks very nervous about that. So, who knows what's going to happen with Jericho and Adam Cole? Maybe this whole Jay White thing is going to sort of change directions on this. But I mean, Keith Lee and Jericho should be a fun match next week.
Hell yeah.
And I love it.
Yeah, it is random, but it should be a lot of fun. I mean, I want to see more of Keith Lee. So I'm glad we're actually like taking a step away from Keith Lee and Swerve, because I think, you know,
I'm so confused and not excited about it.
About what?
How long are we going to put off Keith Lee and Swerve?
I
started in the summer.
I think that I think they're pivoting because fucking Trench and
but that's even better. They got taken out. Now have the solo match.
They've got something else cooking though, because remember he said like I've got something else, kind of planned or whatever, and he had what's his face, the rapper, sort of step in and be like, blah blah blah. So we're gonna get an announcement though, another big oh my god, what is going on, Ryan? What's
been happening lately? I don't know what it is.
What happened
Did
to
you
Wembley?
leave the stadium?
Ryan,
I went to see
you're
Pretty
not
Peter.
at Wembley?
Oh, nice.
Oh,
See, I'm back. I just walked out for a little bit.
Oh,
Peter.
So we're
Swerve's been cutting villain promos lately, and I
Yep.
love it.
And we are going to get they did say a big announcement from Swerve on Friday during the live Rampage and Battle for the Belts. So we'll see what's going on with Swerve, but I don't know. We can move on to our next match of the night. That was the Best Friends, Chuck Taylor, Orange Cassidy, and Trent Beretta versus the House of Black, Brody King, Buddy Matthews, and Malachi Black for the AEW World Trios Championship. Should be noticed, in a night of debuts, we do get another return here. Maybe, Kate, in my eyes, the biggest return to AEW in a very long time. Sue and the Van. Original founding member of Chaos.
Hell yeah, she is.
Sue. So they get dropped off by Sue, and then we're into the match, and the House of Black are able to retain their titles. So they remain the Trios champions in what I thought was a pretty fantastic match.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was awesome. Bud Matthews is just like, I think everybody knows how good he is, but he's also still underrated somehow. Like, that dude is incredible. But I'm glad to see House of Black getting like underway with their reign, because there's been so much happening with the Elite since they dropped that it kind of felt like, okay, but like, what about the champs? And so now it seems like they're back on TV, they're wrestling, they rule. Really, really good stuff, and just a good match. Like, nice to see Best Friends work as a trio as well. I like that. But these guys rule. Like, I appreciate the matchup that is, because all of them work so differently. Like, all 6 of them work so differently, which makes that really, really fun. Like, there's almost no combination that you wouldn't want to see, because they're all just different. Like, Orange Cassidy and Trent and Sexy Chucky T are all different. Of course, Sexy Chucky T leading the sex icon piece of that. And I mean, Brody King, Bud Matthews, and Malachi, such different strengths. So I really like that. That's a nice differentiation. And most importantly, Sue.
Absolutely. Sue was a nice surprise.
That was a nice surprise. I always forget, because it's always like the MJF show, that Trent's from there.
Yep, absolutely. Schlong, any take on the match?
Those were great. I mean, this is what I wanted when they did trios, and I thought they kind of kicked back on it a little bit, and I was a little upset. I just want awesome trios matches. They gave it to us for a long time, and now you just have stakes, which makes it better. Best Friends are incredible trio. I won the Best Friends as a tag team, Chucky T and Trent, to win the tag titles at one point. I think they deserve it. They are at that level, and they just need to, be rewarded. But the House of Black's doing incredible work right now. Like Kate said, Brody King is a very special wrestler in this fact that he moves so well for a guy his size, and he looks so scary, which works so well in that gimmick, that like face paint or no face paint, he pulls off that I'm a scary looking dude, it really helps. Sometimes I feel like they throw people into spooky roles who don't fit that, because it's just like you're kind of like just a geek who painted your face, not Brody King. So I really enjoyed it, and Sue is the greatest member of Chaos.
And for those just speaking of Brody King, I did for you guys. I know I mentioned it here on the show that I showed you that Hatebreed shirt that they
Yeah.
I happened to cop one of those, so that was good.
Nice.
Yeah, it got here.
Excellent.
But also there was I don't know who put it out. Maybe it was Brody King. If you guys haven't seen it, there was a clip of, I guess they were doing some training, like him and a bunch of other people, and Jamie Hayter was there, and they had somebody blindfolded saying, Jamie Hayter's going to give him a clothesline, and then Brody King fucking gives him fucking lariat from hell. It's brutal, man. It is brutal. He's fucking great. I love Brody King. Anyway, moving on. They say Christian Cage has been silent, and maybe we'll hear from him. And they go backstage, and there are open doors with fog and a red light, and out walks Luchasaurus, making a return with some sort of shoulder spike on this time. Maybe he's turning into a Triceratops. I have no idea. Or a Stegosaurus. I'm sorry, not a Triceratops, a Stegosaurus. So clearly, looks like Luchasaurus is on sort of his return path. Maybe we'll get something out of him and Christian Cage. We'll see. But that's about all we get from Zaddy tonight. And we move into Jamie Hayter versus Riho for the AEW Women's World Championship. Jamie Hayter does win by pinfall with the Haterade to retain her Women's World Championship. And then we go backstage with the Outcasts, where they mock applaud Jamie Hayter's title defense and tell her to enjoy the title when she has it, because it's going to be with the Outcasts soon. And in what I thought was a pretty interesting move is Renee says, but there's only one belt for the women. And I kind of thought they were alluding to the possibility of tag championships or something more with the women. But they basically were like, we'll figure it out when the time comes, like who will take the championship. And that's pretty much it. And Paige plugs their new shirt. Or I'm sorry, Saraya, not Paige. Saraya plugs a new shirt.
The Saraya Turner, a wonderful finisher. It's
so
cool that she didn't know she was going to be wrestling a year ago, and she's going to be now wrestling at Wembley Stadium. I'm assuming that's a title match.
Has
to. And they have to be honest, they should give her the title there.
Yeah.
For the moment that it would be. It could be a transitional reign.
Also great for AEW that they did on A&E, that the biographies for the WWE, they did a whole thing on Paige.
It was
which
an
was
eye-opener.
It was quite fun too, that they were like, it was before like she came back, clearly, right? And they weren't going to make mention that she's wrestling anymore because they're talking about WWE Paige, but it is a nice, basically hour-long promo for one of your stars under the other guy's dime. So it was pretty good. And actually, I watched it. It was well done. It was pretty well done. But I we were texting before, and I think it was Schlong who was like, your favorite Riho.
See, multiple words.
Yeah, 3. Your favorite Riho. You're right. It is multiple. More than
he
one
used
that
talk
year.
to text though. It was like lazy. He just was like, your favorite.
Yeah, talk to text.
Have never used talk to text.
Sure.
I'll say this.
And I'm afraid of what it'll do with my O's.
Oh man, you're so right.
So right.
You'll
get a text from me and I'll say home, and it'll just be
Riho is not one of my favorites. I just can't get over the size differential. But they made this match work. And it wasn't a straight squash. Riho got in a lot of offense, which you would hope it's going to not be a squash because she was the first champion. But clearly it's not time to take this belt off Jamie Hayter. She's so fucking over with everybody. And I thought the match was well done. And before 9:00. So you got that going for you too. So I like this whole thing. Again, I want to see them move this Outcast thing forward a little bit quicker to get to something. But now that they announced Wembley, I think it's got to get to Jamie Hayter and Saraya in Wembley. And, we'll see what happens.
Can you hold off that match for that long? Because that is the matchup. I mean, 2 English women for the belt at Wembley. Oof.
I think, yes, if Jamie Hayter goes through the rest of the Outcasts first. Like, she's got to chew through the rest of the team to get to Saraya, which could be really fun programming, honestly, with Jamie versus Tony, Jamie versus Ruby. Like, there's some matches to be had there. I wonder if Jade drops in Wembley.
It's
a long way out.
That's a long way, yeah.
I hope she drops before then.
But I think I'm along your lines of thinking as far as like the Hayter Saraya match happening at Wembley, Kate. Like, yes, I think you have to go through the rest of the Outcasts, and I think that's your last shot, right? So she gets, they decide, okay, it's going to be Ruby, and then Ruby doesn't get the job done. It's like, well, it's going to be Tony, and then Tony doesn't get it done, and it's like, it's going to be Saraya, and we're going to be doing it on the biggest stage possible for two, UK stars. We're going to do it at Wembley, right? Like, and then this is the last shot. You know what I mean? And she has to take. I think she has to take it because it would be huge in the UK.
It's too good of a moment.
Way too good of a moment. But yeah, as far as everything that happened tonight, I thought it was good.
Yeah, they've gotten better at how they produce matches for Riho, because I'm not as anti as you, but I do get taken out of matches by her size and the offense that they try with her. Matchups like this are a little bit better, and they've just gotten better about the way they put them together. It's less like crossbody with my 78 pounds or whatever. Like it's a lot better offense. That's what I always liked about Sasha Banks / Mercedes, was like, she's small, but she knows exactly how to use her size. And they've been putting more entertaining matches together in that way.
Speaking of Mercedes, Ryan, a little bit of an offshoot. You watched The Mandalorian?
No, I missed today's. I have to catch up on it.
I don't know if it's so much of a spoiler, but you see her in today's episode, and there are a lot of big star cameos in this episode.
Oh, nice. I mean, I knew she was in the season, so it's not shocking that she would be in this episode. Match was great. I like, I'm with Kate. Riho's matches. I'm not a Riho hater, but sometimes her matches can be bad. Not bad so much as awkward. I don't think commentary usually does her a lot of favors. Jim Ross is maybe the worst at it, where he consistently mentions how small she is. It's like, you're not helping anyone. Stop it. Unless you can take her size and speak of how it can be an advantage, consistently referencing it does no one any favors. Hayter is really awesome. She's got a hard-hitting style. The nice thing about Riho is she's not afraid to take some hard hits. So when she goes against someone like Hayter, it looks really good. And then I'm excited. I've been a fan. I know not everyone is. Everyone here seems to be, but I know not everyone out in the world is a fan of the Outcast storyline. I am. And now, if we can just hold off Hayter and Saraya for Wembley.
Yeah. I will say this too, and I see Asian Joe's. I'll play that in a second. But Schlong, to your point about commentary and Riho sort of talking about how her size could be almost like an advantage, Taz did a pretty good job with that tonight. Where
Taz is the one to do it.
Well, and it was specifically about the suplexes, right? I think she was giving the full Nelson suplexes, and Taz was like, it's tough to do that because you got to get your hips below your opponent, and since she's already smaller, her hips are already lower than her opponent, which gives her the advantage to hitting those suplexes, which was a perfect way for them to sort of explain the fact that she can get some of this offense in. So I thought that was really well done. Guys, to what Asian Joe is asking for, specifically, I don't get a lot of these. FMK for me, and we'll open it up to the floor. I'll go first. FMK, Riho, Shida, Emi. I'm gonna kill Riho.
Oh.
I guess I'll fuck Shida, and then I'm gonna marry Emi, because if memory serves me, Emi's royalty, right? So I get to live in a castle.
There you go. You're heir to the throne. I'll tell you what, Shida is, when we saw her on the cruise, right? And I and our other friend who was with us, we were like, she is gorgeous in person. She is beautiful. I feel like I would marry Riho because she just always seems like she's in a great mood. That's just someone you want in your life. I would, because of the royalty. I don't want to kill Shida, but I feel like I would fuck Emi because of the royalty, and I like the drama. I like the
royal concubine.
Yeah, and just like let's cause chaos. Let's cause chaos with Sue.
Let's get Sue involved.
Yeah. Okay. I don't want to
Okay.
kill Sheeta, but by process of elimination, that's where
We
we're at.
gotta. Schlong, we'll play it to you.
I mean, I have the same answer as you. I'm killing Riho. I'm
Mhm.
effing Sheeta. And I've become enamored with Emmy from her time on AEW Dark and Elevation. I just think she's the best. So I got to marry the queen. We can have tea together. I can watch her beat up people. It works so well.
You just basically get to live in a palace and not have to worry about all of the other stuff.
Listen, Lulu Pencil will be around.
It's true.
That is true.
It is true.
One LT photos thing that Alex and Sean said that they should have Rio drag a scale to the ring. A weigh-in segment with Rio would be hysterical.
Just doesn't register.
Yeah.
Like,
or
it's
like this
one of
scale
those-
doesn't go low enough.
like the deli meat scales that she just hops on like the
Oh my god. And the they would have to have her do it against somebody who's the complete opposite, right? Like, so, like I'm just thinking of the complete opposite in size scale, like Nyla Rose weigh in,
Yep.
and then Riho,
Awesome
the
Kong,
complete
someone-
opposite.
yeah.
Yeah.
Did you see, by the way, I got to give Nyla Rose a shout out. Someone asked her about the Outcast storyline, and she just replied on Twitter to start talking about Outcast albums. And I was like, what a play off of that one.
She's the fucking best.
She is. She put a picture up of herself wearing a Shining Wizards pink. Oh, sorry, I froze.
I know, but it was such a
I
good
said
cliffhanger. You were like, put up a picture of her wearing a.
Shining Wizards pink and black shirt.
She did. I think that was unprompted too, which is pretty dope.
It was.
That's rad.
It was. Moving out of this, guys, 2.0 and Jake Hager appear on the stage for Daddy Magic tells us what makes his nipples hard, and they want an answer from the Acclaimed. So they make their entrance, do the whole battle rap. They mention George Santos, and then Angelo Parker cuts the music and says that he got them a match on Rampage. The Acclaimed Scissor Daddy asks, and we go to break. So we still don't really have an answer out of the Acclaimed. I don't think any of us truly think they're going to join the Jericho Appreciation Society, but I do love them basically I do love the fact they're dragging it out. Like last week they went out for a night on the town and ate, steak dinners and all this other stuff, went to the box at the Nashville Predators or wherever the fuck they were, Phoenix or something like that. So I do find that whole aspect of this very fun. But I don't think they're clearly not going to join the Jericho Appreciation Society.
No. But I also like that they're dragging it out. But I do think Daddy Magic is going to have soft nipples by the end of this angle.
They're going to be so soft. So soft.
Hey, you know who I don't miss on my TV? Jeff Jarrett for like 20 minutes.
You just invoked his name.
I know
and
that's
it's going to happen.
That's probably my bad. He might have been on Rampage this week. I don't really know.
Well, we don't know until Friday because Rampage is live this week.
Oh, that's right.
Rampage is live, followed by a live Battle of the Belts where no belts will change hands.
That is correct.
We're going to do a bonus episode of Battle of the Belts, by the way. I'm not sure if it's going to be all money or not, but we'll do a bonus episode. So make sure you tune in for that Friday night. You'll at least see me, maybe somebody else.
Yeehaw. Hopefully your awesome wife.
Yeah, I think there's some things that she might not be here, but I'll be here.
Okay.
So we'll see. Moving on, we get a recap of Oyster Bay's MJF Day celebrations from Monday. And then MJF gets played in by a live band as he takes the stage and welcomes us to MJF Day. And he sings Pennies from Heaven, which wasn't terrible. And I was reminded that he did do the whole Les Dinner Debonair where he had to sing. So
Of
we
course.
expected nothing but the best from MJF. And then he goes to the ring and supervisor of the town Oyster Bay, Joseph Saladino, calls Max the pride of Long Island and says that they love the way that he wears Long Island so proudly on his sleeve, and welcomes the world champion, and says it's an honor and privilege to present him with the key to Long Island. So today, April 5th, is officially MJF Day. So they have the key there. they have the key there, and it's just everything MJF wishes it could be. Right, it's a giant key with NY, basically as the one end of it. It's fantastically ugly.
It's an enormous key.
Enormous. And MJF also says the only thing Jungle Boy is going to have is a girlfriend with a wandering eye and a tiny penis. And
Which
this
made it sound like Anna Jay had a penis.
It sure did.
It really did. But I'll tell you guys this. In high school, I had a good friend who will remain nameless. But we became friends because I started saying that he was dating a girl with a penis. And it came up so much. It was just a way to rag on him, and he found it funny. But it was something that was done so regularly that we went to a football game at another school one night, and some random girls asked us about it. They were like, "You know that guy dating that girl who's like a hermaphrodite?" And I was like, "My life's fucking complete."
It traveled to a different school.
Yeah, it did. A public school. I went to a private school.
That's like in high school terms, that's like a different continent.
And it was pre-internet like it is now, right? There was no Instagram. There might have still just been MySpace.
No, you had to work to spread rumors back in our day.
So that means like people in our school were talking about it elsewhere, and it made its way into this school, which was fantastic. Anyway, it did make it sound like Anna Jay has a penis. I don't think so. So he admits that he has ADD. That gets the ADD chant going. There you go, Kate. There,
I was wearing this all day. Got
your MJF swag on. Not swag, support gear.
That's right.
And so he says he could never focus in school. He tells a story about his 8th grade teacher who was unsympathetic and would pounce on him like a lion. And he'd have to say every day that he doesn't know an answer when she'd ask him to give a random answer to something. And she'd laugh at him and tell the class not to be like him. And she asked him why he couldn't pay attention. And his answer was simple. He was thinking about pro wrestling and he'd dream about being world champion. And she said the probability of that was slim to none. Well, looks like your math was a bit off because he just got the key to Long Island and it's MJF Day. And he is the reigning defending AEW World Heavyweight Champion. He tells all the kids that if you bust your ass, you can be anything you want to be except him because he's MJF. He's Maxwell Jacob Friedman, and he's better than you, and you
know it.
I don't know it.
Ryan,
he literally just told us.
You know it.
I wasn't paying attention in honor of him.
So he... So MJF leaves the ring and asks if we want an encore, but he gets distracted because there is a gentleman behind him clashing the cymbals who he yells at to stay on his tempo. And then that man who's wearing a mask and sunglasses unmasks, and it winds up being Jungle Jack Perry. So they brawl and they get pulled apart. And that's when Sammy Guevara comes out after they're sort of at opposite sides of the stage. He just sort of raises the title and moves on to compete in his match against Commander, which we'll talk about shortly. So, guys, I will say this. Normally, these are segments I don't love, but part of me really loves MJF doubling down on the whole WWE sports entertainment sort of segment. I think as a troll move a little bit because of all the news about them sort of, with their Endeavor deal. But it's just, what else would you expect out of MJF on MJF Day? He's always going to do it up big. And it was funny. So I didn't have a problem with it. It went a little long, but
they usually do, but I loved it. That was made for me. As soon as you start saying, I was like, this is amazing. The only downside was Jack Perry should have used the cymbals and hit him on the head. I'm sorry.
I agree.
Like, it was right there.
The segment was begging for that.
I get that they wanted the moment of them like rolling. I understand that was the whole point of that, but it was right there. I also love, and we've talked about this before, but I'm bringing it up again, that they just let him be a face on Long Island. Like, he doesn't have to be so many heels have to go to their hometown and still be like, I still hate you and I'm glad about it. And it's like, no. They let this one place be his spot.
Yep.
And I love it. It makes it just so much funnier when like Jack Perry's getting booed. You're like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
MJF's a dick.
Yeah, and I love that as well too, Ryan. Like, I think even Mrs. Money was like, what, like, there's no kayfabe here. I'm like, no, this is the character, because I'm sure he does love it, being from Long Island, getting recognized, but this is his character. He's always Long Island first. So this, of course, is going to be the one place where he's pleasant. And is way over with the crowd. So like, I never mind that. Like, Kate, you remember when we were in Long Island?
CM Punk cut like a 10-minute promo on the Islanders. It was awesome.
And the crowd hated it and cheered MJF. I mean, it's
deafening. It was so much fun.
The way it's got to be. And I'm totally fine with it for MJF. Kate, did you love or hate this big WWE style segment?
At minimum, MJF is required to do one musical number a year. That's it. Steak dinner, sure, if you want to. He's just the look, the whole getup. This was a blast. It was too long, but it almost should be too long in Long Island. Like, this is for the live crowd that was there. This was super, super fun. It was in the right place in the show. This is good, and it's a good way to just keep the storyline going long. Jungle Boy absolutely should have taken a cymbals to the head for sure.
And it was nice how it played directly, obviously, into Sammy Guevara, right? That was the perfect spot for him to come in. The Spanish God makes his way to the ring for his fight with Commander. And we do see that Darby Allin is watching from the rafters. So obviously, like, this whole story, Jungle Boy attacks. Sammy's there to prove that he's got a shot, at the title. Darby's looking on because he thinks he's got a shot. This whole story is, I think, super intriguing. So I loved it in the way it played into Sammy versus Commander. Sammy does win by pinfall with the GTH, but Commander looked really great in this match. I mean, this is like third or fourth time we're seeing Commander, and he's just fucking great with his rope work. Post-match, Guevara gets interviewed by Shivani in the ring, and he says that he did something the champion doesn't do. That's wrestle. He asked if we were watching American Idol, and Max comes out and says, he says he's beat every single one of the pillars, but when they fought, what happened? He had MJF beat. I said MJF comes out, but Sammy says that he beat every single one of the pillars, but when they fought, what happened? He had MJF beat until another person he used came out and helped him win. So Max didn't beat him. Sean Spears in a chair beat him. And they're supposed to be the four pillars building up the company, but Friedman's side wasn't built by him. It was built by the people he lied to, cheated, and manipulated. And, he's getting booed by the crowd. The crowd seriously hates Sammy Guevara. But he says, screw Jungle Boy, screw Darby Allin, screw MJF, because Sammy is your world heavyweight champion, and we go to break. So it's interesting, guys, to me, because Sammy's product in the ring is top notch. He can go in the ring. I just don't. I mean, he's clearly supposed to be almost like a face in this, right? Because it's MJF. But Sammy, even though it's Long Island, he's clearly getting booed. Sammy gets booed everywhere. And it's just fucking weird to me. Like, it's like he just can't get away from sort of the past shit that he's pulled. And can't win anybody back over. I just don't know what they're supposed to do here with Sammy. I just don't.
I mean, in this, I think he was supposed to get booed mightily,
Sure.
so I don't mind. But you're right in that, like, it just feels like he hasn't had whatever that breakout thing is supposed to be. I really don't think. I think he has spent way too much time, if he's like a future of your company guy, being a Jericho lackey. This promo, I felt like struggled a little bit. I thought there were some good points that he made, but it just didn't feel biting, and there wasn't enough to do with it that MJF could kind of put it over. Like, he put over Jungle Boy so hard last week, And there wasn't really anything to grab onto here for a heel to like flip it back on its head. But yeah, what's a bummer is it feels like Sammy's kind of been relegated to, he does some really great stuff in the ring. Whereas I feel like he was kind of positioned as like a top guy, future AEW champion, like sooner than later, where now I feel like Ricky Starks will be champion probably before him, or Daniel Garcia will probably be, like things like that. And that's not even always anyone's fault, but I just feel like I'm with you in that of the 4 pillars, which is what the storyline is, he's kind of the most vulnerable right now, I think.
And the interesting thing too, Kate, to your point, and then I want to hear what Ryan's got to say, is like, you say he hasn't had his breakout moment, but like Sammy has had some really great matches in his time in AEW.
Like,
oh yeah. So it's weird that he wouldn't like have the quote unquote breakout moment, because he's had some like really big marquee matches. So it's just really odd to me. Schlong, what do you got to add?
Well, what screwed Sammy was the unfortunately the Tay thing. People are weird,
and the Sky, like the Scorpio Sky stuff was just, that got so.
Yeah, the 2 things happened to him at once. They were trying to turn him face, and they put him in a weird storyline, and it wasn't working, which wasn't his fault. And at the same point, the Tay thing happened, and people are weird about that stuff, and they think they have a right to be involved in his personal life for some reason, and it just was a weird timing, and he's never recovered. However, I would argue for a while here, they were nailing him and Tay as heels. Like, they were leaning into it the right amount, and they were doing it properly. They just, like Kate said, they got to figure a way to get him away from Jericho to see if can he carry this out on his own, be it heel or face, and see what happens. I understand he was always supposed to get booed here. I think it was a weird place for this promo because you were never going to turn the crowd in your favor, and it felt like the kind of promo that was designed to do that by actually speaking some truth. So it was like, why would you try this on Long Island? But at least they gave him a chance to get on the mic. They're trying to give everyone something to get over on this feud, and I appreciate that. I know this isn't for everyone, but it's working for me. Unrelated, but I just want to point out, looks like we are getting a 3-man booth at ROH.
Fantastic.
So that was
fantastic.
That's what
I'm the happiest girl.
I love that. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
And I do agree with you, Ryan. This is a tough spot to put Sammy in, being in Long Island. It's weird because it's almost like you want the 3 opponents to be the faces, but I can't tell if they really want Sammy to be a face or if they want to interject him in this as like a second heel, right?
I think they want a ranking. Like, they want MJF to be the biggest heel and Sammy to be right below him as a secondary heel, but it doesn't really work. You can't.
Yeah.
It's a weird. They're putting. He's the one who's getting put in the weirdest position in this feud, because Darby and Jack Perry can both just be them, whatever characters they are, and they're fine. He's the one having to adjust on the fly to like be slightly face but kind of heel because MJF is the mega heel. It's a weird. I mean, again, I don't think this is the feud that's going to make Sammy, but at least they're putting him in it. Like, they haven't forgotten him.
And by putting him in it, they're saying he's a top person, right? Like,
yeah,
that's what giving you a title shot means. That's what equating you with the rest of the future of the company means. So,
yeah, agreed.
It's just going to be interesting to see how this finally shakes out, right? Because we're sort of like in this limbo period of like, who's going to get the shot and what are they going to do? And I don't know if you want to burn them all at once. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if you want to, at Double or Nothing, pull off a 4-way match for the title. You can, you certainly can. But you know, we'll see what they decide to do and how they decide to get there. After this, we get to, hey, we see you there, Kratzo.
Kratzo!
After that, go ahead, Schlong. You want to say something?
I was gonna say, Kratzo, we actually talked about that before our break. So like around the 1 hour mark, if you want to hear our full things, we do have concerns that Wembley is a bit too big for AEW, but if they pull it off, it'll be amazing for them.
Very true. Very true. So yeah, you can certainly go back, Kratzo, and hear what we had to say. We do go to our next match. It's All Ego Ethan Page versus Hook for the FTW Championship, and we talked about it early in the show, just running through Rampage, that they signed a contract for this match last Friday. Ethan Page didn't read the contract and signed it. So as we get into the match, getting to the finish, Isaiah Cassidy and Matt Hardy are there with Ethan Page. Isaiah Cassidy is distracting the ref. Ethan Page is up on the other side of the ring with Matt Hardy on the outside holding the FTW belt. And he tries to get it from Matt Hardy, but Hardy won't give it. And Hardy hits him in the face with it. So Hook puts him in the red room and gets the win to retain his championship. And post-match, Matt Hardy and Cassidy basically are like, we did it, or that's it, and then they go up the stage, they fist bump Hook. And it looks like what we're going to find out, they didn't necessarily say it, but I'm pretty sure we're going to find out is that the clause was in the contract that if Hook wins, Matt Hardy and Isaiah Cassidy are no longer under control by Ethan Page. So it looks like they're going to split out and do their own thing. But I didn't necessarily...
sad.
Why?
I wanted this angle to turn into Ethan Page becoming a good guy and being best buddies with Matt Hardy. I loved that story. It's been developing over time. They've been getting along. It's been hilarious to watch them together.
He's
really enjoying
he's a
it.
heel, man. All ego,
he could
baby.
Be a face. He could be a face.
Give me Scorpio Sky back in this somehow. That's what I want.
I think that's what's going to happen. I think he comes back to face Matt Hardy and how am I blanking on the guy who's in this feud the whole time? You've said his name like 6 times already, and
Isaiah Cassidy.
Yes, thank you. I was blanking on.
I was like,
that's bad. Yeah, so I think they come back for a tag match. So, but I just wanted friendship and love.
Wrestling.
It is wrestling, but we'll see where they go. And then after this, they do go to the announcement backstage, as we talked about. They announced that they're going to do All In August 27th in Wembley Stadium. So if you'd like to hear our talk about that, as Ryan had just mentioned, within the first hour, we talk about that before we start talking Dynamite. So we're going to move past this as Blackpool Combat Club make their entrance into a match. And they were only scheduled tonight in all the build as hearing from the Blackpool Combat Club. But they do go into a match against a couple local talents, and they do come out with a win. Wheeler Yuta gets the win by submission with a quarter Nelson chinlock. And post-match, Bryan Danielson talks about how he loves Jon Moxley and Claudio Castagnoli and Wheeler Yuta, just as much as he loves his family, and he loves professional wrestling. And he says everyone else is impotent amateurs, and the 4 of them are the only professional wrestlers in the building. And that's when Hangman Adam Page decides to come out. But he gets immediately, put down by the Combat Club. And Danielson says that he's an amateur, and the 3 of them are professionals, and he loves them, but nobody loves Hangman. And he knows all about love, and he's been teaching his kids how to fix up the house. And that's when he decides to pull out a screwdriver. And he says the house that is AEW needs to be fixed from all these amateurs. And he tries to gouge Hangman's eye out with the screwdriver. And he says from what he's seen this week, they're the only real wrestlers in all of America tonight. And we go to break. So, interesting here. Nobody there to back up Hangman Adam Page. They go the eye angle again. We haven't seen the eyes try to get gouged out in quite some time. I think since Jericho spiked Santana. I don't know, guys.
Santana.
What's that?
I miss Santana.
Yeah, it is. Well, he did fuck up his knee royally, but So, guys, what did you think about this? I just don't know. I mean, I know where we're going here, right? Like, clearly there's, Danielson's a heel, and he's got the issue with Hangman, but I just don't know what the end game is here. I mean, I think we thought something was going to happen with Kenny Omega, and I think that can still happen, but I just don't know. What do we think about this?
Kenny by God Omega?
Yes, I'm sorry. Oh my God. Kenny by
I just
God
want to make sure I had the right one.
Omega. Yes, that's the one.
Okay, good. I don't know what happens here, and I think that's good. And I'm wondering if it's... I keep waiting for there to be an angle where someone from AEW sources New Japan talent. Like, does Adam Page pick a couple people to even the score for Forbidden Door? Because we do got to build to that. So I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued by this a lot. I think it's good that it's not like assumed the Dark Order is going to run in here. I think it's good that the Elite, for better or worse, isn't coming in here. Like, what does Hangman have to do when he has no friends is an interesting one. Who does he source?
He does have friends from his time in the club.
He does have friends from his time in the club.
He's just a lone man, lone cowboy walking through the town. Where was the Dark Order, though? Because I believe Johnny Silver is from Long Island.
So,
Oh yeah, maybe Rampage.
You are correct.
Oh no, Rampage is live.
But yes, Rampage is live, and you are correct. You are correct that John Silver is from Long Island. But if you didn't see it, Schlong, Johnny Hungy put up this tweet, and it said, "Damn, I went home early to play with my new beautiful dog." So,
I get that.
He wasn't there. He went home to play with his beautiful pup.
He was just left alone.
Look at little homie.
Little homie.
I think that obviously the interesting storyline is going to be who comes out for Hangman to actually stand up to Hangman. But then I wonder why Hangman went to the ring without a weapon. That's a whole different discussion on why faces do that. But I like this whole thing. It was a lot of fun.
And let's not forget, too, we do have to build to the Forbidden Door, but we also have to build to Double or Nothing. So it's like Double or Nothing comes first, and then we get to Forbidden Door. So we've got to sort of like build to one to the next. So they could do something at Double or Nothing, and then that doesn't resolve anything, and we go to Forbidden Door, and maybe there's friends from New Japan. Who knows? So we'll find out. And guys, we are now at our main event for the evening. Kate's favorite tag team, the the Guns and Champions. Kate, I believe you were quoted on this show as they're your favorite tag team of the century, which is pretty wild because
Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett, huge gap. The Guns, huge gap.
I missed that.
Techno Team 2000. High Energy, huge gap. Everybody else.
Okay. No Killer Bees?
Okay. They're the top of the third tier. You know what I mean?
Okay. I mean, Matt would have an issue with that, but that's okay. Matt's a big Killer Bee guy.
He is. I already know all the ways to kill a bee, so I feel like.
Okay. Makes sense. So it's the Guns versus FTR, and this is for the World Tag Team Championship or FTR's career in AEW. So obviously, guys, there's a lot of shit going on with FTR, right? So beyond even in the ring, right? FTR had been, out for a while, nursing injuries and healing up after the crazy run they had for a while. They lost all their belts. Their contracts have been coming up. And we didn't know what their status is going to be. So they put their career on the line, and we've sort of been looking at April as the time when their contracts were coming up. So we weren't sure necessarily what was going to happen. So career versus tag titles, I think we were all thinking, well, we're going to get an idea of what's going on with their contracts tonight. And FTR actually winds up winning by pinfall tonight to become two-time AEW World Tag Team Champions. After the match, Mark Briscoe comes to the ring to celebrate with them after they came out to celebrate at Ring of Honor with the new tag team champions and Mark Briscoe. So it's an interesting move, where I think you could say it's safe enough where FTR is sticking around.
Especially based on the picture that we saw after.
Yes, very true. And now I think with the news of the merger and the news that Vince McMahon is going to be part of that company for however long it needs to be, plus the fact that there are plenty of people out there saying that Vince is highly involved with creative, not, to the point where they're saying he's really not involved. I think that sort of makes it an easy decision for FTR of like, do you really want to go back, or
I think
do you
it
want to
was
stick around?
a done deal before that, just because they don't.
Of course.
Yeah, there's just no value of tag team wrestling over there right now, unfortunately. That might change now that we have new champs, but we'll see.
But yeah, I mean, listen, I thought this match was good, and I loved the wrestling psychology of the Guns trying to get disqualified, right? Because they knew that if they were able to get disqualified, then the match would be basically no decision or whatever, and FTR would have to leave. And also they'd retain their belts. So I love that. I love that Cash at the end, the match was going to get thrown out, and Cash stopped the referee from basically ringing the bell. So it showed the desperation, and they're tag team champs again. And I think we all thought it was going to lead to this. So I didn't have a problem with this, and I thought the match was actually pretty good. I thought the match was good, and FTR looked good, and this is what people want. So I didn't have a problem with it. Kate, since you have Jay Lethal, Jeff Jarrett, big gap, then the Guns, I'd like your take on this match, because they clearly outrank FTR for you.
Yeah, it was a pretty upsetting result. FTR hasn't really contributed to tag team wrestling before. They're only here because they, were WWE guys first. So the Guns, however, have the acumen and the wherewithal to hold the championships with dignity. So, it's not for me. It's pretty upsetting, but what can you do except be really excited that FTR are 10-time top guys. This was a pretty good match. FTR is just so damn good. And Austin Gunn's come a long way, and Colton Gunn is also in matches. So, but they did a good job at building out the tension. Some of the near falls were really, really close, which made the tension sit even further. Dax has been playing into this so well on Twitter, tweeting like a bunch of retirement feeling pictures, and in interviews, whenever they say like, who would you want to work, he mentions a bunch of teams in WWE. Like, he's been leaning into it hard. So it felt like there were actual stakes on the line tonight, and what more could you want from that? FTR leaving with the championships is of course the right call, and I'm intrigued to see what this run brings, because it could just get really, really interesting, I think.
Schlong, what is your take? Are you upset like Kate is to have the Guns lose these titles?
I mean, I laugh because I unironically do enjoy the Guns. I actually think they're very entertaining. I listen, I went into this match thinking like, all right, there's no way they do this match and have FTR lose. Like, it just didn't seem like that kind of match. I won't lie and pretend I didn't buy into a couple near fall moments, especially with that title. Thinking, oh my God, they're actually going to lose, and this will now be the fifth time. Was it no fourth? Sorry, fifth time that I'll have my heart broken from wrestling in the last week. Luckily, that wasn't true. Thought it was an excellent match. I think the Guns showed up. I think people should respect them a little bit more. Hopefully, I don't think they're going to be in the title picture for a while again, but hopefully this was good and can move them up to some nice feuds outside of it. And now I hope FTR gets the run that they've always deserved in AEW as the top guys, kicking ass and putting everyone in their place.
It is good to see FTR back with gold on their shoulders and around their waist. So, so I hope that they're in for a good run here. And it was, I thought, guys, a really great episode of Dynamite. Top to bottom, from the opening surprise to the match quality we got tonight, and the stories that they're continuing to evolve as we have to build to Double or Nothing and then to New Japan, AEW Forbidden Door. You know, I thought this was a great episode. So we talked about a bunch of stuff already. If you missed out, go back and check it. We talked about Nigel McGuinness being all officially signed. We talked obviously about Jay White. We talked about Wembley. A couple extra things. We talked about Dante Martin's injury. Another injury to note we talked about or that we saw happen was that Don Callis was legitimately hurt in a backstage segment where he got attacked by Mox. We saw him come up bloody after he went to the ground, and the live audience audibly gasped. And on Wrestling Observer Live, Brian Alvarez explained some of the details that he had heard. He said, in taking the bump, Don was unaware that there was a lighting rig behind him, and he went headfirst into the rig where he got gashed open, and it was described to him as looking like he was hit with a hatchet. His doctor told him it was so deep you could see his skull and that he was bleeding everywhere. And they took him to the hospital. He was there until 3 a.m. because it took them that long to put his head back together. He is apparently home doing all right, but it might be a while before we see him on TV because that gash, head wound, was so gruesome. So looks like the Invisible Hand's doing okay, but boy, didn't know it was that gruesome.
Yeah, it was. I thought it was fake. It was so bloody and gross, but it was just really that bloody and gross, which is rough.
Yeah, for sure. And then the other thing to note is we've been talking a little bit about contracts and signings is that Andrade was in LA for WrestleMania weekend, like many others. Obviously, he's married to Charlotte and was seen with her at the Hall of Fame ceremony. Lucha Libre Online got a quick interview at WrestleCon with him where he gave a few details on his AEW contract. And the translation from Wrestling News was that he said, "I'm with AEW to make it clear. Soon my contract will expire. I had a tear in my chest and I got surgery in November. I was out for 4 months, but soon I'll be back. I was at the Hall of Fame accompanying my wife and to be next to a great friend, Rey Mysterio." So obviously the reports were he was sent home in October following a backstage fight with Sammy Guevara. We've talked about that. And
an injury. He got injured the same episode, right?
He did. Yes, he did get injured. And there were rumors that Andrade wanted out of his contract to go back to the WWE. He did debut in 2021 for AEW. So I think that was in June of 2021. So if he has a 2-year contract, that would mean his contract's set to expire this June. Obviously, if he had the injury time away, they could, add on to that. Who knows? We'll see what happens, but it sounds like Andrade says he's coming back at some point. And we'll see sort of what's next. I mean, my question to you guys is, would you rather see would you like to see them let him go and just go do whatever he wants to do? Or do we have a place for Andrade in AEW?
He's fantastic. I think he should go to ROH and work with the rest of LFI. I think that would be a nice palate cleanser.
Yeah. I mean, Roosh has been holding LFI down, so they could certainly bring him back to do that. I mean, he is a great in-ring talent. It's just a matter of finding the place for him,
Yeah, they need to do a better job of that.
That was all I had. Kate, you had sent a picture before. Do you want to talk about that at all?
Oh, just Dax being Dax. It seems like after the show tonight, Dax came out with a sign that said Vince fears Tony, which that shit pops me all the time. It's very funny. Go seek it out if you haven't seen it. But it's just like a poster with Tony Khan and putting Vince in a headlock. It's hysterical. I'm sure a fan made it and he just picked it up. But
I was gonna say I think he's in a headlock, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
So yeah, I mean, I think all safe there, and obviously there's continues to be Kate Simp, CM Punk rumors out there. They're talking about moving, one of the events to the United Center in Chicago, so that's got people thinking CM Punk's coming back. Wembley is right around the corner. FTL, well, not right around the corner, but Wembley's going to be coming. FTR have title belts. Could there be something there? Who knows? Nobody really knows what's going on. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But what I can tell you is that we are definitely going to be back here next week to talk about Dynamite. There'll be a bonus show on Friday talking about Battle of the Belts, maybe a little bit of Rampage. So make sure you tune into that. And why don't we let you know where else we're going to be, starting with Kate, since you've got the biggest schedule.
Well, you can catch me doing the ROH post show on Fightful YouTube tomorrow. You can catch me doing AEW Rampage and SmackDown on Fridays normally, but this Friday, I'm at Excite Wrestling doing commentary. And Saturday, you know where else I am? The second Excite Wrestling location, doing commentary there as well. We're doing a scrum beforehand on Friday. So looking forward to that, and get your game show or your sitcom phrases in. Oh, my Lanta, because I am going to be squeezing them in on commentary.
So we definitely need to figure that out.
Didn't we run a poll? I thought we ran at least one.
I don't know if we... No, we ran it for the last... Did we run it for this one?
Yeah, I thought we had one that one.
I don't know. I we'll look it up. But... You're doing commentary just on Saturday, Kate? You said it's just
both
a
nights.
scrum? Oh, okay.
Both,
okay.
But on Friday, we're doing a scrum beforehand. So,
okay.
I'm looking forward
So
to
then
that.
we
I'm going to bring my spin
hypothetically...
drift and my muffins.
You got to bring something.
Oh, I'm bringing spin drift and muffins.
So then we need at least two phrases from sitcoms in the 80s or 90s. To get in there. Maybe we can go in the aughts too. Ryan, do you have something?
I thought I had. What was mine? I had one I wanted her to say.
I don't know. We'll figure it out.
It's been so long now.
We'll figure it out. But if we didn't put a poll up, we could put another poll up. That's easy enough. And then we'll let people know what the results are. So stay tuned on that. And Kate, I know you always put a schedule up. Why don't you tell people where they can follow you so that they can find your schedule?
Oh yeah, at Miss Kate Fabe on Twitter, and then at Katestagrams on Instagram.
Awesome. Schlong, where are you at? Where can people interact with you?
On Mondays and Tuesdays, I am live tweeting AEW Dark and Elevation from the Twitter Mark Order Pod, and I'm there the rest of the week. Just don't be a jerk, and we can talk wrestling or whatever.
So like Schlong said, you could follow him at Mark Order Pod on Twitter. That's our handle for all of our socials, at Mark Order Pod, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, all over. So make sure you follow us on our socials, and you can find our link tree in our bio everywhere, which has links to all of our socials. So if you're following us on Twitter, you can easily find all of our other stuff. Why don't you give us a follow? That helps us out. The other thing you could do is you could support us by requesting some free stickers. That's right. Free stickers. All you got to do is click the button in our link tree, give us your name, your mailing, your full mailing address, the country you live in, and your email in case we have any questions about your address to make sure we've got the right place. And I will send you out some free Mark Order Podcast stickers. We ship them worldwide. We are global. So hit us up and let us know where we can send them. Thanks to everybody who watched live with us tonight and chatted along. We had a great group. The Jesse Ozogs, Kratzo checking in late, 1LT Photo, You Know It checking in, Jason Major, Cabbage Sensei, Asian Joe, Eric Freed, and Mrs. Money earlier on. You know, so many people. I can't even get all the way back to find them, but we appreciate you all chatting along and checking us out live. To those of you listening in podcast form, we appreciate you too. If you're listening in podcast form, Why don't you subscribe, like, rate, review? That helps us out greatly, and it takes a few moments of your time. We appreciate you doing that. And if you've never checked us out in video form, head over to the YouTube. All of these podcasts live in video form. You can see Ryan live at Wembley. You can see the captain show up, a concerned citizen, Rate the Great. Matt shows up shirtless sometimes. I'm wearing a scarf tonight. I don't do a whole lot of cosplay, but we are celebrating a great day, MJF Day. And you could subscribe to us there too and get notifications when the show's about to go live, all that stuff. Leave comments, all that kind of stuff. Thumbs up. You know, it helps us out. So we appreciate you guys for taking the time if you're going to do that too. I also failed to mention you could support us financially by heading over to our Pro Wrestling Tees store to pick up a t-shirt. Go to prowrestlingtees.com/markorderpod or search Mark Order Podcast on Pro Wrestling Tees, or you're in the link tree anyway. Click the button to head to our store directly and you can pick up one of our awesome shirts. A couple of them are front prints. We got a couple double-sided prints that are pretty sweet too. And we can't believe that people actually want to help us out and support us financially, and we greatly appreciate you for doing that. So thank you so much. Yes.
I can't believe it. We're great.
We are pretty great, but still, I just can't believe it. I can't believe it. And as far as me anywhere else, this is really the only place you'll find me. And like I said, we're going to do a bonus show Friday for the live Battle of the Belts. And maybe even talk a little bit of Rampage. That's going to be live Friday night. And guys, for you two here, Ryan and Kate, we were talking amongst some of the other Shining Wizards programs. We might have some of those other people on as guests one night. We might show up on some of their shows for a little corporate synergy.
That's right. We're going to all be in Shazam together.
No, not Shazam. Not Shazam. Please don't. I don't want to do Shazam.
Corporate synergy.
I don't want to be part of the DC universe that continually is being rebooted. I know it hasn't been great lately. Put me in the Marvel universe. Come on.
Corporate synergy.
So then if it's corporate synergy, then we'll all be showing up in oh my God, MBW. We'll all be showing up for future MBW. Sorry.
That's correct.
I want to make sure I got it right. So that's it for us tonight, guys. Like I said, bonus show Friday. We'll be back next Wednesday here to talk about Dynamite and all the new events going on in AEW. So Kate, Ryan, always a pleasure talking wrestling with you on a Wednesday night. And yeah, we'll see you next week. Thanks, y'all.
This concludes the Mark Order Podcast. We now return you to your regularly scheduled programming. Join the Mark Order.